네, 2020 서울 도시건축 프리비엔날레 개막식을
Ladies and
위해서
gentlemen,
오늘 일찍부터
I'd like
현장에서
to
수고하고 계신
thank
모든 분들께
everyone
감사를
for
드립니다.
working to
네, 지금
prepare for
행사장에
the
와주신 분들
Pre-Biennale.
환영하고요.
I welcome all of you
5시부터 2020
and
서울 도시건축
I'd like
프리비엔날레 문을
to
여는
ask you to
오프닝
get ready
세러머니
for the opening
개막식이 있도록
ceremony of the
하겠습니다.
Pre-Biennale, which will start
무엇보다
at
오늘
5
행사
p.m.
중에는 마스크 꼭 끝까지
And please
써주시기
remember
바랍니다.
to keep your face masks
고맙습니다.
on throughout the conference.
Welcome everyone to this meaningful event. Our special opening ceremony for Biennale will begin at 5. Thank you very much. 네, 오늘 코로나19 가운데서도 뜻깊은 행사 여러분과 함께해서 참 기쁩니다.
I'm very happy
무엇보다도
to be with all
오늘
of you
모두를
today
위한 안전한
despite
행사가 될
the
수 있도록 우리
COVID-19
행사 주최 측과
crisis. I'd like to
서울특별시에서
also
많은 준비를
thank
했습니다.
the organizers and Seoul City
여러분께서는요 행사
for their
시작부터
hard work.
끝까지 지금처럼 마스크 꼭 써주시고요.
Please make
현장에
sure that
마련된
you keep your
커피와
face
음료
masks
드실 때만
on
잠깐
throughout the
벗으시고
conference. Of
끝까지
course, you can
마스크
take them off when
써주시기
you are
바랍니다.
taking
Ladies and
tea
gentlemen,
or
let me give a short and
eating the
important
snacks.
announcement. Please wear your mask for a whole session during this ceremony. Thank you very much. 네, 오늘 여러분과의 특별한 시간 2020 서울 도시건축 프리비엔날레 문을 여는 개막식이 이제 곧 5시부터 시작됩니다. 현장에서 오늘 현장 파리시와의 이원 홍중계를 위해서 준비해 주고 계신 여러분께 감사를 드리겠고요. 오늘 도착하신 여러분께서는요 이제 착석해 주시면 대단히 감사하겠습니다.
Please take your
Welcome, ladies
seats
and
as you
gentlemen, to
arrive.
this meaningful event. Our special ceremony will begin at 5. So please take your seat. Thank you very much. 네, 오늘 우리 서울과 파리시와의 따뜻한 연결과
Thank you very
함께하겠고요.
much.
파리시
We are
현지가
with
준비가
Paris
되면은
today,
바로
and
오늘
as soon as the
프리비엔날레
Paris
뜻깊은
side
개막식을
is ready, we will
시작하겠습니다.
commence the Pre-Biennale
Welcome,
opening
ladies and
ceremony.
gentlemen, to this meaningful event. Let me give a short announcement for today's ceremony. Everyone here, please take your seats, and thank you very much. 네, 여러분 지금 서정엽 서울특별시장 권한대행님께서 입장하고 계십니다. 따뜻한 격려의 박수로 맞이해 주시기 바랍니다. Please welcome Mayor 서정엽 of Seoul City Government with a big round of applause. 네, 여러분 고맙습니다.
Thank you very
코로나19
much,
속에
ladies and
모두의
gentlemen.
안전을 위해서 비대면
For your safety,
온라인으로 함께하고
we
계십니다.
are
2020
proceeding
서울
with
도시건축
a
프리비엔날레
online
오늘
conference
현장에서는
for
이렇게
everyone's
코로나 감염
safety.
예방을 위해서 최소한의 인원으로
And
함께하고
we have
계시고요.
minimized the number of
또 오늘
participants
생방송
as
중계를
well.
통해서 많은
on
시청자분들의 공감과
The
소통으로 함께
conference is
하겠습니다.
being heard by
오늘
many people
서울과
online
프랑스
as well.
파리와의
Seoul
따뜻한
and
연결을
France
위해서
is
현장에서
connected
일찍부터
right now,
애써주신 많은
and
분들의
I'd like to
노고에
thank
깊이
everybody who have been
감사드리겠고요.
working
오늘
hard to make this connection
참석자분들께도
possible.
감사를
I also thank the
드리겠습니다.
many
여러분께 중요한 한
attendees of
가지
today's
안내
conference.
말씀드리겠습니다.
There's a very
우리 모두의
important
안전을
announcement
위해서
to make.
지금
For
현장에서
everyone's
커피와 음료,
safety,
다과를
please make
드실
sure
때를
to keep your
제외하고는
face masks
지금처럼
on
마스크
except
든든하게
when
끝까지
you are
착용해
taking
주시면 되겠습니다.
beverages and snacks.
오늘 우리의 시작이 서울 도시 건축에 만들어갈 소중한
We
결실이 되기를
are
바라면서요. 그 기대와
putting the
희망,
first step
서울
forward
도시
of
건축 프리비엔날레
SBAU,
홍보 영상으로
and we will start
만나보시죠.
by watching a video of SBAU.
L'exposition thématique s'intitule Architecture et infrastructure. C'est l'idée de montrer que le dessous, c'est-à-dire la surface sur laquelle se pose l'architecture, que ce soit une architecture symbolique, patrimoniale ou une architecture moderne, développe dans son dessous un système racinaire qui est plutôt lié au transport et à un ensemble de services qui permettent à la ville de vivre. Et donc architecture et infrastructure, ce n'est pas seulement un crossroad, c'est aussi la volonté vraiment de rendre homogène, de rendre vivable l'infrastructure pour qu'elle devienne architecture et que l'architecture ait les qualités de service que propose l'infrastructure à la ville. C'est donc une notion de résilience entre le dessus et le dessous, entre l'histoire et la modernité. Donc venez nombreux, soit physiquement, soit en ligne. Welcome in Seoul.
2021년 서울 도시건축 비엔날레 도시전은 크로스로드라는 전체 주제를 보다 더 확장된 시각에서 바라보고 다양한 배경 지식을 생산하는 것을 목표로 하고 있습니다. 서울이 전체 전시의 호스트 역할을 하고 서울을 중심으로 약 80여 개의 도시들이 각각의 그 의견과 그 미래의 비전을 제시하려고 합니다. 특히 21년 건축도시 비엔날레 도시전은 특히 전체 주제를 미래라는 렌즈를 통해 새롭게 재조명하려고 합니다. 미래는 우리가 알 수 있는 지식이 아니라 신화와 어떤 상상의 영역입니다. 누구나 미래를 꿈꿀 수 있고 누구나 미래를 상상할 수 있지만 그 미래는 자신의 비전을 설득할 수 있는 사람들의 것입니다. 특히 도시전에서 제시하는 미래의 모습은 문명과 야생, 자연과 도시, 지하와 지상, 그리고 인간과 비인간의 얽힌 현상이 극대화되는 모습으로 상상하고 있습니다. 어느 한 곳에서 일어나는 변화가 먼 다른 곳에서의 변화를 이야기하고 서로의 운명이 하나로 뒤얽혀 있다는 것을 깨닫고 있는 지금입니다. 이번 전시에서는 예전에서 보셨던 단순한 전시 형태가 아닌 적극적인 참여형 라운드 테이블, 토론, 심포지엄, 강연 등을 통해서 서로의 실제 의견을 공유할 수 있고 서로의 목소리를 들을 수 있는 어떤 비물리적인 전시에 집중하려고 합니다. 전시가 단순한 생산 행위가 아니라 지식을 만들고 공유하는 어떤 미디어적인 역할을 하는 것이 목표입니다.
(2021년) 서울도시건축 비엔날레는 서울이란 도시가 마주한 갖가지 상황들에 대해 세계의 다른 도시들과 함께 공명하며 나아가 지구의 생태계와 순환고리를 이루고 있다는 확장된 인식을 모색합니다. 서울도시건축 전시관에서 열린 서울전은 도시전과 생산적인 다이얼로그를 나누며 초연결 사회에 도시를 상상할 수 있는 기회를 마련하고자 합니다.
서울전은 서울시에서 개최하고 있는 자연과 도시의 입체적 관계, 문화와 경관 속에 담겨진 미래 가치들을 살펴보면서 똑똑해진 교통, 그리고 압축된 도보권으로 앞으로 바뀌게 될 미래 생활을 소개하는 프로젝트들을 선보입니다.
With the title Crossroads Building the Resilient City, this third edition of the Biennale is a response to the current context of crises that are environmental but also humanitarian and urban, and that are pushing humanity to a juncture. From its inception, the Biennale has had two main characteristics. One, first and foremost, it's a Biennale about cities, so it's not only about architecture, and two, well, it showcases the work of experts and institutions, but it also gives a relevant role to the work of students. And here is where the Global Studios exhibition comes in. The Global Studios is really an academic platform through which schools of architecture and design from all over the world have been invited to reflect upon the crucial moment we're facing by exploring the notion of refuge as a space of safety and resilience. The provocations, investigations, and proposals by the students will be showcased in temporal housing prototypes that we call refuges, designed by the students themselves and located in relevant public spaces throughout the city. What we want to achieve with that is, one, to show society that the next generation of designers and architects are socially committed and they continue to respond efficiently to situations of emergency. Two, to take the work of the students outside of the academic environment and share their creativity and energy with the general public. And three, to increase the exposure of the Biennale throughout the city with these student design temporal venues. What we really want the visitors to take home is, as Dominique Perrault himself expressed, we cannot afford not being political anymore. So with the Global Studios, we want to question the role of design in disaster and thus the agency of designers in society. In other words, what can design offer to society in a situation of crisis? And with that, I hope to see you in Seoul in the fall of 2021.
(2021년) 서울 도시 건축 비엔날레 현장 프로젝트의 큐레이터를 맡은 푸하하하 프렌즈입니다.
라이브 프로젝트라고 해서 생동하는 뭔가를 생각하다 보니까 그냥 노는 사람들을 생각을 했거든요. 꼬마들끼리 노는 걸 보면은 어떤 나름의 규칙이 있다는 생각을 하게 됐습니다. 그런 게 도시를 즐기는 어떤 방법이지 않을까라고 생각하면서 힌트를 얻게 됐고요. 그래서 저희가 한 일은 여러 건축가 혹은 작가 혹은 어떤 창작을 하는 다른 분들에게 그러한 힌트를 하나씩 제공해 달라고 부탁을 했습니다.
이번 현장 프로젝트는 도시를 함부로 정의 내리지 않고 도시 그 자체를 경험할 수 있도록 기획되었다고 요약할 수 있겠습니다.
네, 저희 이번 현장 프로젝트를 통해서 시민 여러분들이 즐겨주셨으면 하는 부분들은 여느 전시처럼 뭔가 전시를 보기 위해서 굳이 집을 나서실 필요는 없다. 그냥 산책하듯이 내가 살고 있는 이 도시 혹은 뭐 방문하셨을 수도 있죠. 이 도시를 그냥 산책하고 나만의 방식으로 여행을 한다라는 그런 마음가짐으로 이번 전시에 참여를 해주시면은 더욱더 즐거운 전시가 되지 않을까 생각이 듭니다.
네, 2020 서울 도시건축
Thank you very
프리비엔날레
much.
우리의 바람을
The
담아서
2020
개최될
SBAU
2021 서울
Pre-Biennale
도시건축
will
비엔날레를
start,
준비하는 뜻과 마음이
and
모여서
I'd
오늘을
like to
이루었습니다.
thank
오늘
everyone
뿌듯한 이
for
시간
working
진행자로
hard to make
여러분과
this
함께해서 참
possible.
좋습니다.
I'm very
안녕하세요.
glad to be
서울시
here with
공식
you today.
아나운서
I am
전희원입니다.
Chani
반갑습니다.
Won, the official announcer of Seoul City.
Thank you so much for being with us this special event. I am Hiwon-jeon, official announcer of Seoul City Government. 지금부터는요 오늘 프리비엔날레
I will now
동시
start
통역과 함께 진행하도록 하겠습니다.
to
언어별
host the
채널을 잠시
Biennale,
여러분께
and
안내해드리도록
simultaneous
하겠습니다.
interpretation will be
From now for
provided.
today's ceremony, simultaneous interpretation is provided. So please use the receiver on your desk and channel 1 for Korean and channel 2 for English and channel 3 for French. Thank you very much. 네, 오늘 2020
Thank you very
서울
much.
도시건축 프리비엔날레
I'd
오늘
like
이
to welcome all
시간
of you to
크로스로드
the
어떤 도시에 살
Pre-Biennale
것인가를 주제로 한
of
우리의 담론
SBAU
속에
that will be
프랑스
held
파리와
under the
우리
theme of
서울을 연결하는
Crossroads,
연대의 힘을
building the
느끼고
resilient
우리가 바라는
city.
도시의 삶을
We will be thinking
그려보시길
about
바랍니다.
what sort of city we
오늘
want
서울
to live in
도시건축
the future.
프리비엔날레 이 시간 우리와 함께
We have
준비해
with
주시고
us
그동안
today
큰 힘이 되어 오신 분들 한 분 한 분 소개와 함께
many
여러분께
distinguished
인사드릴 겁니다.
guests.
인사 드릴 때마다 크고
I'd like to
따뜻한 격려의
introduce
박수로
all of them to
환영해
you.
주시기 바랍니다.
And please welcome them
네,
with
오늘 이
me.
시간
First of all, we
서울특별시의회를
have
대표해서 김정태
Mr. Kim
운영위원장님
Jong-tae
함께하십니다.
from the Seoul Metropolitan Council.
네, 서울시 총괄
And
건축가십니다.
the city
김승회님
architect of
함께하십니다.
Seoul, Mr. Kim Seung-hwae.
네, 주한 스위스 대사관의 리누스
Ambassador
폰
of
카스텔무르
Switzerland,
대사님
His
오셨습니다.
Excellency Linus
환영합니다.
von Castelmuir.
주한 네덜란드
From
대사관의 요한나
the
도너바르트 대사님
Embassy of the
환영합니다.
Netherlands, Ambassador Johan Durnewald.
주한 프랑스
The
대사관의 필립 르포르
Embassy of
대사님
France,
환영합니다.
His Excellency Philippe Lepour.
네, 서울특별시 김형진 국제관계
Ambassador Kim
대사님
Young-jin
환영합니다.
from the Seoul Metropolitan Government, Ambassador of International
네,
Relations.
사단법인 한국건축가협회
From
박재유
the
회장님 오셨습니다.
Association of Korean Architects, the President of the Association, Mr. Park
사단법인
Jae-yu.
대한건축학회 한동욱
Mr.
부회장님
Han Dong-wook, the Vice
자리하셨습니다.
President of the Korean Architecture Society.
그리고 서정엽
And finally,
서울특별시장
Mr. Seo Jong-hyuk, the
권한대행님이십니다.
acting mayor of Seoul City.
그리고 오늘 있기까지 또 중요한 역할을
There
해주신
are so many
분들입니다. 서울
others who
비엔날레
have
운영
played a very
위원님들과 학술
important
위원님들
role
그리고
to make
관계자
this
여러분께
possible.
큰 박수 주시면
I'd like
좋겠습니다.
to thank the technical committee and the operation committee
네,
of
오늘
the
이
Seoul
시간은 우리
Biennale.
서울과 프랑스 파리와의
Seoul
아름다운
and
연결과
Paris
연대로
is
함께하고 있습니다. 지금 현지 프랑스
Connected
파리
online
시청에
with us,
함께하고
and
계신
in the
분들
Paris
소개를
City
드립니다.
Hall we have
아르노드
several
은가차 파리
guests. Mr.
부시장님,
Arnaud Ngacha, the Deputy
주불
Mayor of
한국
Paris,
대사관 최종문
Ambassador
대사님,
Choi Jong-moo,
그리고
the Korean ambassador
2021
to
서울 도시
France,
건축 비엔날레
and also
이끄시는 도미니크
Mr.
페루
Dominique Perrault,
총감독님께
the
박수
Director
주시기
General
바랍니다.
of 2021 SBAU.
네, 고맙습니다.
Thank you very
크로스로드,
much.
어떤
Crossroads,
도시를 살
building
것인가?
the resilient
2020 서울 도시
city.
건축
That is
프리비엔날레
the theme
우리가
of
마주하는
2021
파도 속에서 세계
SBAU
도시
theme.
건축이 나아가야 할
And we will
발걸음
take this
그리고 우리
opportunity to think
서울과
about the
프랑스
future
또 파리의
of
따뜻한
architecture
연결과
and
또 희망 속에 우리가 나아갈
as
길을
we
모색해 보시면
are
좋겠습니다.
talking
네, 오늘
online
2020
with
서울 도시
France,
건축
we will be
프리비엔날레
sharing the
오늘
vision
우리
for
함께하는
future.
시간 누구보다도 뿌듯한 마음으로
I'm sure
자리하고
that
계십니다. 서정엽
Mr.
서울특별시장
서정엽,
권한대행님의
the acting
기념사로
mayor
오늘의
of
의미를
Seoul,
나누겠습니다.
is
큰 박수로 맞이해
very
주시기
pleased to
바랍니다.
be here with us today, and he will deliver a short welcome remark.
I am acting mayor of Seoul, Seoul. I'd like to welcome everyone to the 2020 SBAU Pre-Biennale event. Thank you very much for joining us. COVID-19 has changed many things for us, and we are hosting this event live from Seoul and Paris, and I think this is a good start. Because of COVID-19, we are unable to be together, but I am happy to host this event with Paris, with the Deputy Mayor, Arnaud Ngacha, and our General Director, Dominique Perrault. Thank you very much for being with us. SBAU was launched in 2017 as Korea's first global academic exhibition festival centered on the city and architecture. SBAU is now recognized as a platform for global dialogue that focuses on identifying urban issues and finding solutions through urban architecture that is connected to the everyday lives of our citizens. As our civilization is being transformed through COVID-19, we will need to redesign future cities with a completely new architectural perspective. Seoul Metropolitan Government is hosting the Pre-Biennale to present and review the major themes of SBAU 21. Dominique Perrault's presentation and Professor John Hong's presentation will, I hope, propose a new vision for the resilience of our cities in the post-COVID era. In closing, I ask for your active participation and interest in today's Pre-Biennale event, which will pave the way for an outstanding event next year. Thank you.
네, 2020
Thank you very
서울 도시건축
much.
프리비엔날레 기념사를 통해 서정엽
That
서울특별시장
was the opening
권한대행님의
remark by
특별한
Mr.
소개와
서정엽,
오늘을 우리가
the
함께하는
acting
의미
mayor
나누었습니다.
of
네, 지금 프랑스 파리와 우리
In
서울
Paris,
온라인으로
France,
연결돼
we also
있습니다.
have,
프랑스 파리
the
또
gentleman
시에서
with us
2020
from,
서울
the
도시건축
city of
프리비엔날레 그동안 또 함께 준비하시고 오늘 이 시간 또 이끌어 주신 분이
We
계십니다.
have somebody
아르노드
very
은가차
important,
파리
Mr.
부시장님의
Arnaud
환영의
Ngacha,
마음
the Deputy Mayor
만나보겠습니다.
of Paris. I'd like to invite him to say a few words of welcome.
Monsieur le maire de Séoul, Monsieur l'ambassadeur de la République de Corée en France, Mesdames, Messieurs, cher Dominique Perrault. J'ai le
존경하는
plaisir de représenter la
서울시장님,
maire de Paris, Anne Hidalgo, qui s'excuse de ne pas pouvoir être parmi nous aujourd'hui en raison de la gestion de la crise sanitaire suite aux annonces du président de la République française. Soyez sûr qu'elle se réjouit
thank you
de
very
notre
much.
rencontre
I
virtuelle
am
et
speaking
qu'elle vous
on
salue
behalf of Mayor
C'est un
Hidalgo,
honneur pour
who
Paris
was unable
d'accueillir
to
cette
come here
Pre-Biennale
due to
et de
many
lancer
urgent
ainsi la
issues.
réflexion autour des villes résilientes
I am very
portée
honored
par
to
cette
take
édition.
part in this pre-biennale
Lors
from
de son
Paris.
dernier déplacement à
In
Séoul, la maire
particular,
de
the
Paris
resilience of
a eu
cities
l'honneur
is
de
a
recevoir
very
la citoyenneté
important
d'honneur de votre
subject.
capitale.
When
Elle en a été très touchée.
Mayor
Cette distinction
Hidalgo went
souligne
to
les liens
Seoul,
forts qu'Anne Hidalgo
she was
entretient
awarded
avec la
with the
Corée
honorary
du Sud et sa
citizenship.
capitale, Séoul, qu'elle salue
This
fréquemment
shows how
pour son
close
architecture et pour
the
sa
two
politique
cities and the two
urbaniste
countries
innovante.
are.
La
Mayor
Biennale de Séoul sera le
Hidalgo
premier événement architectural
believes
international
that
intervenant
the
à
innovative
l'aune de cette pandémie.
policies of Seoul
Il est essentiel
regarding
de mobiliser les
architecture
architectes,
is of great
les urbanistes,
interest.
les paysagistes, afin
This
de se questionner
Pre-Biennale
collectivement
is
sur
now
l'aménagement
taking
des villes
place,
après un tel choc.
and the
Souhaitons féliciter
Pre-Biennale
de nouveau le gouverneur métropolitain de
shows
Séoul et
what
son
we
maire,
need to do
M. Seo,
and how the
pour la
cities
gestion
need to
exemplaire de la
prepare
crise à Séoul.
for
Deux villes
unexpected
ayant
events
échangé à
like
de
the
nombreuses reprises
COVID-19
depuis mars dernier des
crisis.
bonnes pratiques en la
The
matière.
two cities have been communicating with each other from March, and we've been sharing important information regarding the
Nous
coronavirus.
sommes ravis que cette biennale reprenne les thèmes chers à
In a
nos deux
few
villes, notamment les enjeux
A few days ago, we commemorated the 30th anniversary of the ties between the two cities, and resilience, resilient cities is a theme of the SBAU, which I believe is a very appropriate subject. Mayor Hidalgo believes that resilience of the city is a very important issue, and she has introduced many relevant policies. She has always believed that resilience was a very important part of running the city. City experiences many fluctuations in temperature, and it also needs to be ready for natural disasters such as floods. That is why green areas play a very important part in the city. This is why we believe that rather than using just cement, we need to use more environmentally friendly building materials. Mayor Hidalgo has made Paris a very innovative city. She also introduced many innovations in terms of transportation so that it becomes a city that serves its citizens well. When we build cities and when we plan the public transportation system, we need to always keep in mind the importance of innovation. Sometimes we need to change the law, and it's a big challenge for us. We are very lucky to have many outstanding architects like Mr. Dominique Perrault, who are with us in this effort. In terms of urban architecture and urbanism, our architects such as Mr. Perrault play a very important part. Paris is working closely with Mr. Perrault on many joint projects. Mr. Perrault is working on projects such as the Paris Olympics or the Paris Paralympics. He is involved in many structures being built for those events. He emphasizes simplicity, sustainability in planning these structures and in organizing the fabric of the city. Paris will be taking part in the 2021 SBAU. We look forward to new models of urbanism at the SBAU. With that, I wish you the best of success.
Thank you very much, Deputy Mayor Arnaud Ngacha. Seoul and Paris, we are connected together live for this virtual event, and we are having this pre-biennale event. We would like to take this opportunity to thank the city of Paris and their staff for helping us organizing this event and the biennale. And at this pre-biennale, and while we prepare for the SBAU 21, we have the Seoul Metropolitan Council who have provided us with a lot of support. I would like to invite the President of the Seoul City Council, Mr. Kim In-ho, to come up and give us some welcoming remarks. Good evening, I am Kim In-ho, President of the Seoul Metropolitan Council. With the 10 million citizens of Seoul and representing the Seoul City Council, I would like to congratulate the opening of the 2020 SBAU 21 Pre-Biennale. And I would like to thank our acting Seoul Mayor Seo Jong-yeop, who is preparing for this Biennale despite the COVID-19 crisis. And I would also like to thank General Director Dominique Perrault and our Ambassador Che and all our VIPs and guests who are here with us this evening. Seoul Paris is celebrating 30 years of partnership and friendship, and it is also the 50th anniversary since the end of the Korean War. At the end of the Korean War, Seoul City was completely ruined, and today we have a city that is modern and has kept its traditions with 10 million citizens, and it is the safest and the most beautiful city in the world. Seoul is a dynamic city, and there is no place inside the city where we do not get internet connection, Wi-Fi connection. And we have our good points, but we have environmental problems, and we also have communities that have been destroyed throughout our history and development. And I think we wanted to resolve these issues through architecture, and that's how the Biennale was born. When the Biennale was in the process of being developed in 2013, I participated in its development, and as a council member, I was very proud to have been part of that process. In 2017, we held the Biennale under the theme of Eminent Commons, and in 2019, under the theme of Collective City, we organized a Biennale where we invited many cities around the world, and we were able to communicate the importance of the city and architecture to all the citizens of Seoul. Next year, we will be hosting the third edition of our Biennale, and the theme of our Biennale in 2021 will be Crossroads, Building the Resilient City. I hope that our next year's Biennale will be as successful as our last two events, and I hope that we will be able to resolve all of the problems and issues that our cities face thanks to architecture and thanks to design. And our Seoul Metropolitan Council will also support this Biennale so that it can become one of the top 3 architectural biennales around the world. In closing, I would like to thank Mr. Kim Tae-young and all the staff who are working on the preparation of this Biennale. I would like to thank all of our experts. Thank you very much.
네, 고맙습니다.
Thank you very
서울특별시
much.
의회 김정태
That was Mr. Kim
운영위원장님의
Jong-tae
마음
from
함께
the Seoul City
나누었습니다.
Council.
우리 서울이 세계 도시와 연대해서 나아가는 힘 바로 도시 외교죠. 우리 도시 외교
We have
들어주고 계시는
with
김영진
us
국제
Ambassador Kim
관계대사님
Young-jin, the
따뜻한 박수로
Ambassador
무대 위로
of
맞이해 주시기
International
바랍니다.
Relations, who will be delivering a few remarks.
Thank you for this valuable opportunity to give a congratulatory remark at Seoul Pre-Biennale. I find today's event of connecting people virtually in the midst of COVID-19 the more meaningful. As a person working in the Seoul Metropolitan Government, seconded by the Foreign Ministry, special thanks go to Director Dominique Perrault, as well as acting mayors of Paris and Seoul, and to the colleague ambassadors in Seoul and in Paris. The fact that we are having this event online shows that COVID-19 is changing many aspects of our lives that can be divided into BC, before coronavirus, and AD after domestication. Dealing with COVID-19 has also been an occasion to realize the central and indispensable role of citizens in containing the pandemic with their voluntary cooperation. The citizens have proved to be the best vaccine for COVID-19. With the spread of COVID-19, the desire for increased communications and exchanges are so much the greater. The increased exchanges across the borders are indeed the goal of Seoul Biennale of Architecture and Urbanism. The theme of the third Seoul Biennale next year is Crossroads, building the resilient city, which is the common goal of the cities around the world. It will also be a forum to discuss the hygienic policies of cities to contain and deal with COVID-19. After all, cities are the space of freedom as well as the place of safety. Cities are where we live with each other, share with each other, and communicate with each other. Seoul Biennale will provide a forum for the citizens to look back upon their potentials and visions, as well as the lives of individual citizens and the collaboration across the borders. Architecture and urbanism shed light on the question of how we will live as we are passing through the present crossroads of past and future. Looking forward to a meaningful and beneficial event, I extend once again my heartfelt gratitude to everybody joining this pre-Biennale event today, as well as all those involved in Seoul Biennale. Thank you very much for your attention.
네, 서울특별시 김형진 국제관계
Thank you very
대사님과
much, Ambassador
함께하셨습니다.
Kim
네,
Hyung-jin,
우리 서울과
Ambassador
파리의
for International
우정과
Relations.
협력의 마음이
We
2020
have
서울
talked
도시
about
건축
cooperation
프리비엔날레
between
오늘의
Paris
시작과
and
시작을
Seoul,
만들었고
and
또 결실을 만들어 갈
we
것으로
have
기대합니다.
started the
이러한
Pre-Biennale,
의미로
and I'm
오늘
sure
양국
will come out
대사님들 좀
with outstanding
만나뵙기를
results.
바라는데요.
We would
먼저
like to
여기
meet the
계시는
ambassadors
주황 프랑스
of
필립
Korea
르포르
and
대사님
France,
무대 위로
and I'd like to
맞이해 주시기
invite the
바랍니다.
French
큰 박수
ambassador
주세요.
in Korea, Ambassador Philippe Rapport, to give his speech first.
안녕하십니까. 필립 르포르입니다.
Good evening. I am the French ambassador in Korea. My name is Philippe Rapport.
Permettez-moi d'abord de saluer monsieur le maire.
I would first like to thank Acting Mayor of Seoul, Seo Jong-hyuk, and the Deputy Mayor of Paris, Arnaud Ngacha, and His Excellency Ambassador Cho Jong-moon, Ambassador of Korea in France, Ambassador Joanne Dornward, Ambassador Linus von Castelmoer, and International Relations Ambassador Mr. Kim Young-jin.
Mesdames et messieurs,
Ladies and gentlemen,
c'est pour notre ambassade un honneur.
it is indeed a great honor for the French Embassy to congratulate Mr. Dominique Perrault for his appointment as General Director of SBAU 21 by the Seoul Metropolitan Government. This appointment is a strong reflection of the dynamic exchanges between our two countries. This appointment is also the result of a long-term relationship that has developed between the architect and Seoul, going beyond the very strong bilateral ties connecting our two countries. This honor is also the recognition of the excellence of French architecture, which has contributed to the economic and cultural brilliance of our country. In 2020, the world has experienced a crisis which has shaken many of the things we took for granted and forced us to rethink our lifestyle and actions. This is why next year's Biennale will take place in a special context, and the theme chosen by the director, Crossroads, Building the Resilient City, is a call to come together to resolve of the current challenges so that together we can build a sustainable city that will know how to respond to these issues. Architecture has this power to transform the world, and in the words of Paul Valery, the poet, we cannot escape from it. Architecture directs our relationship with space, with others, our interactions, and our movements. Once again, I would like to congratulate Dominique Perrault for his appointment as Director General and Partner of Seoul for the third edition of SBAU 2021, and I wish him all the best for the successful conclusion of the 2021 Biennale. The French Embassy is ready to support you during the development of the project, and I invite all the French and Korean participants to contact the French Embassy should you need any assistance. I wish you a wonderful evening, and I thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Ambassador, for your heartfelt remarks. 네, 주한 프랑스 필립 르포르
Thank you
대사님의
very
마음
much,
함께 나누었습니다.
Ambassador Lefort.
네, 우리 파리 시청에는요,
In
최종문
Paris,
주
we
프랑스
have
한국
Ambassador Choi
대사님께서
Jong-moon, the Korean
특별한
ambassador
순간
to
기다리고
Paris,
계시거든요.
who is
최종문 대사님
waiting for
영상으로
his
화면으로 만나보시죠.
turn to speak. Please invite Ambassador Choi.
Monsieur Sojong-hyuk, maire intérimaire de Seoul, and Monsieur Arnaud,
Acting Mayor of Seoul, Seo Jong-hyuk, Deputy Mayor of Paris, Arnaud Ngacha, Ambassador of France in Korea, Ambassador Kim Young-jin, Mr. Dominique Perrault, ladies and gentlemen. I am very honored to attend this Pre-Biennale event, and I am very happy to be attending this event today. And I would like to thank everyone who has worked hard to prepare for this Pre-Biennale event. Under the COVID-19 pandemic, I know that it must not have been easy, and I'd like to thank you for your hard work and preparations. The City of Paris and the City of Seoul, through their partnership and friendship, have worked together to host this Pre-Biennale, and I would like to thank both cities. And I went to a reception hosted by the mayor of Paris, Mayor Hidalgo, and at the reception there was discussion of tolerance and what the city of Paris was doing to take leadership in solving the different urban issues. And the theme of SBAU 21 is resilience, and this is connected with climate change. And in this context, the fact that one of the leading architects in France, Dominique Perrault, has been appointed as General Director is indeed very timely. And the City of Paris has worked on planting more than 700,000 trees, and at the 2021 Biennale, I know that the City of Paris will make a big contribution. And thanks to the Pre-Biennale event, I hope that architects and urban designers of both cities will be able to work in partnership for great projects. And the start of everything is important, and I hope that this Pre-Biennale will contribute to the success of next year's Biennale. Thank you very much.
네, 주 프랑스 최종문
Thank you very
한국
much,
대사님의
Ambassador
마음
Choi
함께
Jong-moon.
나누었고요. 최종문 대사님과 한마음 한뜻으로 또 오늘 프리 비엔날레
It is
든든한
good to have
직원으로
you
함께하고
with
계신
us today,
프랑스 한국
and
대사관의 직원분들과
we'd like to
관계자분들께도
thank the many
깊은 감사를
members of the
드리겠습니다.
Korean Embassy
여기
in
코로나19 사태 속에 모두의
France
안전을
for their
위해서 오늘
cooperation
온라인
and support.
비대면으로
We are
여러분과
holding
함께하고
an
있고요. 이렇게
online
현장에서는
meeting today
최소한의
in view
인원으로
of the
함께하고 있습니다.
COVID-19.
그런데
And
온라인
on
생방송
site, we have
파리와의
just a
이원
few people.
연결을 통해서요.
We try to minimize the number
활발한
of
시청자분들과
physically
활발하게
present
공감과
people.
소통으로
Nevertheless,
오늘 이
we
시간
are
만들어가고
having
있습니다.
active
지금 현장에 계신
communication,
모든
and I believe
분들
that
마스크
we
잘
are
써주고 계셔서
sharing of the
감사드리고요.
same mind.
이 마음 그대로
Thank you for
행사
keeping your
끝까지
face masks
코로나19
on.
방역 수칙에
I hope
함께해
we can
주시면
keep
대단히
our face masks on until
감사드리겠습니다.
the very end of the
네,
conference.
아마 이제
and
우리가
comply with all the
기다리던 시간이
guidelines.
아닐까 싶습니다.
We
2021년
have
곧
been waiting for
다가올
this moment
서울 도시
now.
건축 비엔날레 그
The
주제와
General
비전을 모두와 함께
Director
나누고
of Seoul
공감하는
Biennale
특별한
of
순서인데요.
Architecture and Urbanism
2021
will
서울
be
도시 건축
presented.
비엔날레 도미니크 페로
Mr. Dominique Perrault,
총감독님을
the General
영상으로
Director,
만나보겠습니다.
will be making the presentation. Please welcome him to the screen.
Bien, bonsoir pour vous à Séoul et bonjour pour nous à Paris. C'est très
Good
important
evening, everyone in Seoul,
nos
since
deux
it's
villes,
evening in Seoul and morning in Paris. I'm very happy
dans
to
cette
be
période,
with you like
montrer
this.
que nos
And more
liens
than
sont encore
anything,
plus forts
the fact that
que
these two
précédemment
cities
et que
are
nos
able to
ambitions de
maintain
construire une
our
ville
very strong
humaine
relationship
dans
despite
laquelle
the
tous
pandemic
peuvent
is
vivre
very meaningful.
est quelque chose qui,
Oh, I'd like to take this opportunity to say that we
qui
need
fait partie de
a
notre
city
ambition.
that is humane
Et donc je
and a
veux
city that
remercier
is
la ville de
good
Séoul
for citizens to
qui
live in.
depuis
That is
maintenant
our ambition.
3
I'd like to thank the
biennales
Seoul City government
soutient le développement non seulement de l'architecture, mais aussi
in
de
this respect,
l'urbanisme, puisqu'une
as
centaine de villes
we
vont
went
être
through the first
invitées
and
à Séoul
second Seoul
pour cet événement.
Biennale.
Je veux remercier
The
aussi la ville de Paris,
Biennale
qui,
has contributed
développe,
very much to urban
elle aussi,
architecture.
une
I'd like to
politique,
thank the city of
très
Paris as well,
ambitieuse de transformation
because
de
the
la
city of
capitale,
Paris has been
capitale
working very
française,
hard
capitale
to
historique,
change and transform the city.
chargée longuement d'une histoire
Paris has
urbaine.
introduced many relevant
Et cette
policies
histoire
and
urbaine
measures
est en
to
fait,
this
si
end.
je puis dire,
Paris is
notre
a
socle,
historical
et ce
city
socle,
and
il
has
faut
long
le
tradition.
fertiliser afin qu'il
That,
puisse
I believe,
résister
is a
dans son
strong
histoire, mais aussi dans son
foundation
avenir.
for us.
Et donc,
This
ces deux
foundation
villes
has to become stronger
sont attachées
through
aussi à deux
supply
pays
of
importants qui
further
soutiennent
energy
l'architecture,
and
qui soutiennent
nutrients.
l'urbanisme, qui
Seoul and
soutiennent
Paris are
une
both
vision aussi d'un
capitals of
monde
very important
de paix.
countries.
Et
The
je
two
dois dire
countries
que la
support
présence également
urbanization
de nos
and
ambassadeurs
also
fidèles, car nous nous
support
sommes déjà
peaceful
croisés
development.
avec les ambassadeurs et ambassadrices présents ce matin,
We also
soutiennent
have
eux
with
aussi
us the
une architecture
ambassadors
qui
from
a une
both
dimension
countries.
humaniste et internationale. Donc merci,
These gentlemen
merci à tous. Et
are
évidemment, merci à
also
toutes les équipes de la ville
strongly
avec
supporting
qui
our
nous
effort
travaillons
to build
de
a
façon,
humane,
je ne dis pas
livable
quotidienne, mais
city.
presque,
So I'd like
puisque
to
nous
thank everyone
parlons
who
toutes les semaines
is with us
et
today.
nous fonctionnons,
We've
si je puis
been
dire,
meeting at
presque
least once a week,
en contact direct
if not every
pour
day, for the
préparer
past few
cet
months.
événement.
And
Mais il y a un an,
I'd like
lorsque
to
nous
also
avons
thank teams on
lancé
both
l'idée
sides
du
for this.
crossroad,
1 year ago,
c'est-à-dire du
when
croisement,
we first
c'était une idée
decided
qui consistait
on-
à
when we
dire
first
qu'on
presented
ne
the
peut
idea of
plus
crossroads,
travailler chacun séparément.
we
On ne peut plus construire nos villes en silos ou bien de
were
façon
thinking
avec
that
des zones
we should
qui
no
sont
longer be
affectées
separate
les
and
unes
live
par rapport aux autres
separately,
sans
because
aucune
in the
relation
city
entre
everybody
elles.
lives
Il faut
separately, works
retrouver
separately,
des croisements, des
without
crossroads,
any
des
strong
échanges entre ces
relationships.
territoires.
So we didn't want
Et
people
donc,
to be isolated in the city.
effectivement,
Thus,
fait
we
partie
decided
de,
on the theme
je
of
dirais, de
crossroads
cette,
because that
dimension
signified
qui
exchange.
permet et qui oblige même à ce qu'une métropole de cette ampleur se
Seoul
pose la question de la
is a
résilience.
very large
Paris aussi,
city.
mais
It's a
Séoul, c'est
metropolitan.
12 millions d'habitants.
So
En
naturally,
France, 12
Seoul
millions
needs to
d'habitants,
think
c'est la
about
région de
resilience
l'Île-de-France.
as a
C'est
city.
donc des territoires
12
avec des populations
million
extrêmement diverses, avec des
citizens
paysages,
live
avec des lieux qui
in
sont
Seoul.
multiples. Et il faut que
In
nous
such a
trouvions
large city with so many
justement
inhabitants,
tous les prétextes afin que cette géographie, disons,
we have to
soit
find
notre géographie
every way
et qu'on
possible,
puisse la partager et qu'elle nous
and the
abrite, qu'elle nous protège.
geography and
Et donc,
topography
le
of the city
crossroad
becomes ours, And
a
we
été
need to make the
finalement
city a
une
space that
certaine
protects us.
prémonition, on pourrait dire, il y a une année,
That is
qui est
why
devenue de plus en
when we
plus
said
évidente.
crossroads,
Et la
even
notion de
until
ville
a year
résiliente
ago, it was
est
a very
apparue comme, en
abstract
fait,
concept, but now it has become
le
more
mot, le
concrete.
terme qui apportait une
So
somme à ces
the
différents
term
croisements.
resilient city
Nous avons imaginé, justement, de faire vivre ensemble des situations qui sont a priori opposées. Et
is
je
a
dois
sum
dire
of
que, aussi
all
bien à
of the
Paris,
axes
avec la
in the
construction
crossroads.
et la
These
réalisation
are
de la Bibliothèque
contrasting
nationale de
ideas
France,
that we
nous
coupled
avons, il y a
with
fort longtemps
intention.
déjà maintenant, créé une
If you
forêt
look at the
urbaine,
Bibliothèque
un
nationale
îlot de
of
fraîcheur
France,
dans un
it's
nouveau quartier.
an
Avec
old
IWA, l'université
structure,
féminine,
but
grâce à
our
l'architecture,
intention
nous avons
was
construit un
to
paysage.
build a
Et donc
forest-like
je pense que
space
ces
in the
projets,
middle of the
mais ils ne
city.
sont pas les seuls.
That's exactly
Il y a
what we
beaucoup
did in
d'architectes,
the
beaucoup de
IHA
paysagistes dans le
University
monde
Campus
entier
Project.
fabriquent ces lieux qui sont
These
aujourd'hui plus
projects
complexes,
are
plus
not
hybrides et qui vont nous permettre
isolated
d'énoncer petit à petit
incidences.
ces
There are
croisements.
so many
Un
projects
premier
like
crossroad,
this
le
throughout
dessus,
the
le
world.
dessous, above, below.
We can
Le
build
dessus,
a
c'est ce que nous
crossroad
connaissons.
in many directions. The first
C'est notre
one
vision
is the crossroad
que nous avons
between
de
the
la ville.
above
Mais
and
le
below.
dessous, c'est ce qui fait vivre cette ville.
This is
De
a vision
façon,
that we have
je
for
dirais,
the
très
city,
industrielle,
but
de
the
façon
subsurface, the subterranean
presque
of a city
autiste.
allows
On ne connaît pas le
the city
Alors que le
to
dessous
thrive.
est une
In terms
nécessité
of
pour que le
industry,
dessus ait sa pleine
we really don't know much
urbanité.
about
Et donc nous
the
cherchons
below
en fait à
ground
prolonger la
space,
ville
just like
dans
we
ses
were,
racines et que ses
as
racines
if we were
puissent, elles
autistic
aussi,
children.
aller
But
dans les
the
architectures
space
elles-mêmes.
consists of
Quelques collages
two
qui montrent
dimensions,
cette
above
relation
the
aussi
ground
entre
and below
l'héritage et
the
le
ground.
moderne.
That's why we want
La
to
notion
delve deeper
du socle,
into
la notion de la
this
relation entre
crossroads.
le
The second
contemporain
crossroads
et
is
le
about
patrimoine.
heritage and modern.
Monsieur
The
le maire
relationship
adjoint a dit
between
tout à l'heure
heritage
que
and modern is what
il faut
we are
plutôt rénover,
interested
restructurer,
in.
réhabiliter. C'est
The
vrai.
deputy
C'est
mayor
vrai parce que
said
le
that
XXe siècle aura construit plus de mètres carrés
we need to
sur la
find
planète
new
que toute
structures
l'histoire de
and new
l'humanité.
usages.
Nous avons
That
des
is
mètres carrés.
precisely
Nous avons
right,
beaucoup,
true,
beaucoup
because
de constructions.
in the
Elles nous
20th
sont
century we
finalement
build
offertes,
so
ou
many
tout au moins elles sont à
buildings.
notre portée de main, et nous
We've
devons
never
les
built so
prendre comme un
many
patrimoine,
structures
pas seulement
throughout
celles
history.
qui
And all
remontent
of these
dans les
buildings
siècles,
are
mais
usable
celles
now.
que nous avons
So we
réalisées il y
need
a 20
to
ans, 30 ans,
preserve them
50
as
ans.
our
La deuxième moitié
heritage.
du XXe
Not
siècle est
only
notre
buildings that
patrimoine
are several
vivant
centuries
avec
old,
lequel
but
nous
also
devons
buildings that were
imaginer
built
notre
2, 3,
futur.
5 decades ago.
Autre
All
croisement,
of those
autre
buildings
crossroad,
are
craft
our
and digital.
architectural heritage, and that should be the
L'artisanat,
basis of envisioning
le
buildings
travail
of the
manuel,
future. The
c'est
third
quelque chose que l'on
crossroads
peut faire
is the
chez
crossroad
soi, à
between craft
proximité.
and
Mais
digital.
ensuite, il faut
Craft
que
or
celui-ci
handcraft
puisse
is something that
aller
we can do at
au-delà
home,
de l'endroit où il a
very
été
close to
produit.
ourselves.
Et donc le
But at the
digital
same
permet
time,
non seulement que chacun puisse passer commande
craft needs to
pour
spread
une
wider,
fabrication, mais
and
ensuite que chacun
it's the
puisse
digital that makes
recevoir
this happen.
cette
What
fabrication qu'il a
somebody
commandée.
has handcrafted at
il y a
home can
dans
be
cette
sent to
idée
far places through
artisanat
digital
et
technology.
digital, un lien qui devient de plus en plus évident. L'un
So,
n'empêche pas l'autre.
between
Je
craft
dirais même
and
que l'un
digital,
crée la
there is a
physicalité
connection
de
that is
l'autre.
being
Il faut
built.
de la
Digital
main,
does
il
not
faut du
make
physique pour
craft
que
impossible. It
l'immatériel
does not
puisse
preclude
avoir
craft.
une
These
dimension
two can exist
urbaine,
together.
une
Something
dimension holistique, je dirais.
that is intangible
Autre collage, naturel et artificiel. On a souvent séparé la nature
and
de la construction.
handcraft is the invisible force
Non.
that imbues
En
value
fait,
on
aujourd'hui, nous savons
objects.
qu'il faut construire
In the
de la
past,
nature.
the nature and the
construire de la
artificial
nature.
were
La nature
strictly
est
separated,
insuffisante, il ne
but this
suffit pas
is
de
no
protéger
longer
la
so,
nature
because
pour que
nature
notre ville, nos
is not
villes,
something
nos territoires urbains
we can
aient
create,
cette
but it's not enough
dimension
just to
politique,
preserve
comme je le disais
nature.
tout à l'heure.
Our urban
C'est-à-dire
space
cette dimension qui
has to
permet
become
de vivre ensemble,
holistic.
d'avoir des lieux qui sont des
In order
lieux
for this to happen,
en
in order
fait,
to make
permettent
living
cette
together
vie
possible,
plus paisible,
the space
cette
that we
vie
occupy
plus écologique
has
aussi,
to
finalement, cette
enable
vie
a
plus
more
saine.
comfortable life.
Et donc,
And in order to make
l'architecture,
that space more
l'industrie,
sustainable
l'ingénierie doit
and healthy,
permettre de construire
we
aussi
need
de la
to
nature,
make sure that
pas seulement
architecture,
en protégeant les territoires
industry,
les uns par rapport aux autres.
engineering, All are used to create nature.
certaine façon de ces différents croisements, la notion
de la sécurité et du risque.
The final
La
crossroad
sécurité et le risque,
is about
c'est
safety
évidemment
and
cette
risk.
question, comment peut-on protéger
Safe
notre patrimoine?
versus
Comment
risk.
peut-on protéger nos populations?
It's
Comment peut-on protéger
connected
tout
to
ce
how
qui
we
nous
can
entoure,
preserve
tout ce
our
qui nous fait
heritage.
vivre, tout ce que nous aimons aussi?
And it's
Comment peut-on
also
protéger
about
ces ensembles vivants
protecting
afin qu'ils soient
all the
aussi
important
inscrits
things around
dans un
us? How
avenir,
can
dans
we
une
preserve a
durabilité,
life?
dans une
How
résilience?
can we protect a
Et
life?
donc, cette
And in the end,
opposition
make it
sécurité et
sustainable.
risque est quelque chose qui fait aussi
That's
bouger la limite
that's why we say
entre ce
safe
qui est
versus risk.
immobile, ce que l'on croit ancré à tout jamais, et ce qu'il faut justement mettre en œuvre pour que
There are
cette
fixtures
immobilité devienne en fait
in the city
une notion de sécurité, mais pas
and
une notion d'exclusion. Donc, sécurité et risque, c'est
those
effectivement
fixtures
la notion de
need
solidarité.
to embody
Et
the
pour
concept
cela,
of
j'ai
safety.
souhaité m'entourer d'un comité scientifique.
Of course,
Un comité
safety
scientifique
is
avec
also
de belles
related
personnes
to
qui viennent de milieux et d'horizons
solidarity.
très différents.
We have the
du monde
scientific
entier.
committee,
Ce
and we
sont
have great
des
figures
femmes et des
in
hommes
this
qui
committee.
constituent
They are from
des
around the
regards,
world
qui
with
constituent des
different
pensées.
backgrounds.
Et également, ce
They
sont
will
des gens
all
qui
provide
aiment
perspectives,
profondément
and they consist
leur
of
métier,
both
qui
men
sont
and
engagés dans
women.
leur métier,
They
dans
will
leur
talk about
recherche, dans
how
leurs
we need to
universités,
think.
dans leurs pratiques.
They
Et
have
donc, ce comité scientifique
their
nous aide et il va encore
own
nous
jobs.
aider pour
Sometimes
les
they are
sélections, si je
working
puis
in
dire,
universities
finales, afin
and
que l'on puisse
teaching
présenter à
students.
Séoul, pardon,
In
dans
the
le cadre de la
scientific
Biennale, les
committee,
meilleurs
they will
projets,
provide
les
us
projets
with help
qui seront les plus
in terms
engagés
of
et qui nous
deciding
permettront,
on
dans
our
le bâtiment
projects.
de
And the
Zaha
best
Hadid,
projects
entre autres,
will be selected
d'accueillir
and
plus
presented at
d'une
the
centaine,
2021
150
SBAU.
Il n'y aura pas que le
The
bâtiment de
Dongdaemun
Zaha
Design
Hadid, qui est
Plaza,
très
designed
emblématique,
by
qui est
Zaha
un
Hadid,
excellent
will
bâtiment
be
de
the
Zaha Hadid
venue.
d'ailleurs, complexe,
Of
topographique, qui
course,
est une
Dongdaemun
architecture
Design Plaza
absolument
is a very
passionnante et
important
qui
venue,
résiste
and it
au
is
passage
a
du
very
temps. Elle s'est
interesting
inscrite
and
dans Séoul, elle en
meaningful
constitue un des
place.
symboles. Il y aura évidemment
It has a
aussi
historical
d'autres
park
lieux, des
within the
lieux
plaza
qui
as
sont
well.
plus
So it's a very
liés
important
à la vie
structure.
quotidienne,
But there are
là où des
other venues and
manifestations
other spaces
pourront
that are very
s'organiser
interesting
en
in
relation
Seoul.
avec
These
ce
spaces would
que
be
j'appellerais
closer
l'art
to
vivant,
the citizens of
avec des
Seoul.
échanges plus
For instance,
participatifs avec
we
les
want
habitants de
to
Séoul, les citoyens de Séoul. Et puis un autre lieu important
have
que l'on
spaces
pourrait
that could bring
comparer
in more
pour
citizens
ceux
and make
qui
them
sont à Paris
take part
au pavillon
in
de
the
l'Arsenal,
Biennale.
le Shoah, c'est-à-dire c'est un pavillon
In
qui
the
se
case of
trouve sur la place de
those
l'Hôtel de
in
Ville à
Paris, you
Séoul et
might
qui
think that this
accueillera
is familiar.
les villes sœurs,
The-
les villes proches de
This,
la ville
in
de
other
Séoul
words,
lors
the
de la
space
manifestation
surrounding
de la
the city
Biennale. Donc on voit
hall
bien qu'il y a finalement trois pieds. Le pied
All
culturel
of these different
avec la grande
venues
exposition,
will
un
be
pied beaucoup
forming
plus
an important
participatif
axis. There will be
avec
three axes. One is
ce
the
travail
axis of
lié
culture,
au
one is
quartier
the
de Séoul, et puis
pillar
un pied
of
plus
participation,
politique,
one is the pillar
là
of
où les villes
culture,
pourront présenter leur
and
engagement,
then the
leur
third
politique
pillar
de
will be
développement
the
et la
pillar
notion
of
de résilience.
policies.
Ce schéma résume
Cities need
les différents
policies that define how they will
départements,
develop the
les
city
différents
and how
curations,
they
les
will
différents
define
commissaires
citizenship.
aussi qui
Here,
présenteront
we
tout à
see
l'heure
a slide
leur travail
that
et leur
indicates
vision de
the overall
l'événement.
programming of
Un
the Seoul
résumé,
Biennale.
200 artistes, nous avons appelé artistes car il y a aussi bien des
are going to
paysagistes que des
implement our
ingénieurs,
vision in
que des
this
architectes,
manner.
tout type de
In the end,
profession qui crée notre
about
environnement,
200
qui crée
artists
du
will
visible.
be
Car ce qui nous intéresse,
participating.
c'est le
The reason
visible.
why we say
Dans quel
artists is
environnement nous
because they
vivons,
all
mais
work in different
on peut le
ways and
toucher,
use
cet
different
environnement. On le
methods
voit, il y a une dimension de
to
perception et
make
ces différents artistes
the
vont
city
travailler
visible.
suivant ces
We have
différents
different
thèmes.
perceptions
La
here.
Biennale de
The
Séoul,
artists
c'est
will
une
have
biennale
different perceptions
importante.
and
Elle
they
a
will work
rassemblé
with
pour
different
la précédente 700 000
themes.
visiteurs. On
The
espère
scale
qu'en
of the Seoul
21,
Biennale is quite large.
septembre
Last year we
21,
had about
le chiffre sera beaucoup
700,000
plus
people
élevé
visit.
et déjà les 100 000
In
pressentis pour venir
2021, we
participer à la
expect the
Biennale,
number to grow
nous
even
pouvons
further.
espérer que l'écho sera un écho
Right
international
now,
comme le souhaite
we
la ville de
expect several
Séoul et
cities
comme le
to
souhaite
participate in the
également
Seoul
la
Biennale,
Corée du Sud.
and the number of cities are very large, so it will truly be a global event. 100%.
네, 우리 총 감독님 정말
Thank you.
성과 열을 다해서
to our General Director, Dominique
준비하고
Perrault,
계신 모습이
and
느껴집니다.
I could feel how
2021년 곧
passionate he was
다가올
about
서울 도시건축
preparing for this
비엔날레
Biennale.
주제와 비전,
And
도미니크
we
페로
heard about our General
총감독님의 소개와
Director's
설명으로
vision
함께
of
나누었습니다.
the
다시 한번 큰
Biennale.
박수 주시면 좋겠습니다.
Let's give him a big hand once again, ladies and gentlemen.
네, 고맙습니다.
Thank you very much.
네, 서울 도시건축 비엔날레 서울 곳곳의 현장에서
SBAU
그리고 또 연구의
21 will take
자리에서
place
멋진
everywhere
비엔날레와
around
청사진의
Seoul,
모습을
and
만들어가고
we
계신 분들이
will work
있습니다.
with the
바로
scientific
서울 도시건축
committee,
비엔날레
and
학술위원회
this scientific
위원분들이신데요.
committee is
10분의
advising our
위원분들의
general
생각과
director.
뜻을
We have
대표해서
10
오늘
urban
준홍
architects from
학술위원님의
Korea and
발표와
abroad.
함께하겠습니다.
Representing the
큰
scientific
박수
committee,
주시면
we'd like to
좋겠습니다.
listen to a presentation from Professor John Hong.
Well, thank you, everybody. And is my screen being shared right now? Yes. Is my screen being shared? I will go ahead and start. I'm assuming my screen is being shared. Thank you again. It's a privilege to be a member of the scientific committee, and I was asked to prepare just some thoughts about my previous experience as one of the curators of the Seoul Biennale in 2017, and maybe some ways forward in terms of the kind of emergency and the kind of pandemics that we're going under. And so the title of this very short talk is called Active Archive. It's about the importance of archiving a body of knowledge. And so the Seoul Biennale is not foreign to having challenges. Last year's Seoul Biennale was confronted with a typhoon, as you all may remember, but somehow we recovered from it, and the opening events, which were canceled on the first day, we were able to recover. This year, of course, we have COVID, and it's a difficult time, but I think we also have some potential opportunities from this. Now, the difference between let's say the Seoul Biennale and the Venice Biennale, another major biennale, is that the Seoul Biennale is about cities. And in that way, it's a partnership between cities rather than a competition between nations. And I compared the Venice Biennale, and of course it's a great exhibition, but it's almost like the World Cup, where nations compete, and there's winners, but there's also losers. But in fact, the Seoul Biennale is very different because it's more about a partnership. It's more about a body of knowledge, and every director will continue the body of knowledge rather than sort of forgetting and undoing what was done before. So I think there was a very powerful quote by Director Dominique Perrault. The territory for exploring is open and complex and diversified. It's not rigid, authoritarian, or closed, but rather one more focused on attempts to strengthen solidarity and sharing. And so this was actually quite an important statement, because it's about cities. And so therefore, we're going to be building a body of knowledge. And the role of the archive, I think, is something that's very important to the Seoul Biennale, not just this year, but as a kind of project, as a project that continues and builds knowledge. And so the old version of the archive is very closed. Even though it's supposed to be a public institution, it's not available to the public. But the emerging role of the archive, the emerging paradigm, is that it's something that's open to the public. It's something that can be curated by the public. And this is happening both in the Seoul Biennale last year. There was a great exhibit called Reassembling the Archive, but also in school as well. It's a very kind of hot topic. And so along with that, the Seoul Biennale is creating an amazing body of research throughout the years, and this year will be no different. What do we do with that? And that's the question that I would have to propose as part of the scientific committee. The great thing about the Seoul Biennale, every year it has its own sort of autonomy, but it has its own shared components. The thematic exhibit, the cities, the global studios, and the live projects, as well as the public programs. And we deal with a series of keywords. And so my role and my suggestion is somehow being able to find continuity in those, rather than destroying what we've done in the past. How do we build a body of knowledge? I had the privilege of working with the city of Seoul this summer, and curated an exhibit called City as Verb, which was actually a bridge exhibit between the 2017 Biennale and the 2021 Biennale. And the purpose of this, and we studied these keywords very closely, was how to make a very clear connection between the themes of 2017, 2019, and 2021, and really take upon the idea of building this knowledge. I won't go through these exactly, but the exhibit was positioned to exactly make those kind of connections. And it was in the great space Seoul Hall of Urbanism and Architecture. And what it did was invite 17 cities to participate. And it was a kind of archive in which you can walk through in different ways and experience the city, but also look very closely at some of the data that's being produced. So one of the important aspects of this summer event, Active Archive it was called, is that it was hybrid. Just like today, it was both online and offline. And what that did was it allowed us to invite some very important speakers. From France, we had Alexandre Labas, the director of the Arsenal, for instance. And what it did was also, the exhibit itself was a background for the event itself. Originally, because of the pandemic, we were thinking we would only invite around 50 people per event across 4 events. But just like this event, we leveraged the power of online communications, and over 1,700 global viewers visited us, where only 200 were originally planned. And we were able to partner with institutions like the American Institute of Architects. So in a way, these hybrid events, even though we're closed off from COVID, there's a potential that we can actually be more open on a global scale. So in that regard, I would like to suggest thinking about a way in which to not archive after the process, but begin this idea of the active archive as a way to organize perhaps the way that the projects and the ideas are presented to the public. My role in the 2017 Biennale was to archive the work of the students as part of the exhibit. And so what we did, we simply organized the work of the students from the sites that they worked on to the schools and the themes. And the users could choose, the public could choose how they wanted to view the project. So for instance, this professor from Keio University in Japan, he turned the whole exhibit space into his own exhibit, and he invited the ambassador of Spain to view it. Or we had our 2 friendly competing schools, Ewha University and Seoul National, and we turned into a gallery for this, just for those students. Along with that, we have these kind of digital bits turned into postcards. And this was one of the most popular parts, where the archive was a series of small little pamphlets and postcards that the students could share. These are the students from EPFL under the guidance of Dominique Perrault, and they're really enjoying seeing their own work exhibited in this way. And so what are some of the challenges of archiving then as an exhibit strategy? One of the challenges is brought on by the idea of interiority. This is a section through DDP. And we have a great kind of master plan strategy from Dominique Perrault about the way in which different cities will participate in the exhibit. But one of the issues of interior space like this is that it can quickly perhaps devolve into something like a trade show, where every city is represented as its own project without relationships. So I'm just putting, as a previous curator, I'm putting this out as a kind of thing to think about. And of course, what's very interesting about large interior spaces, that the Javits Center in New York City has now, the grid of it has now become a COVID treatment facility a few months ago. And so what the DDP has that no kind of convention hall has is incredible exterior space, very vibrant exterior space, which also can be used for exhibit. And this is also great in the COVID era because there's less transmission, of course, of the disease. And so I hope that this use of the experience of the exterior can really bring the exhibition to the public. And of course, within the master plan that Dominique Perrault has put together, there's a lot of events and opportunities on the exterior that he has imagined. So I would like to just close very quickly about how we can deal with inviting guests from abroad and afar. And I call this section the 16-day Seoul Biennale regimen, because it will be actually very difficult if the pandemic continues and the thought that it will continue even though we will have a cure or a vaccine for it. And so this idea of the regimen, I'll just go very quickly straight through it. Let's invite some people here. It should be online, but also we can do a phased opening. On day one, we can have a period of arrival and really present things that you can't get online to the guests, like these great macaroons that the Seoul Biennale produced for our event. Day two, there's always a bit of project management, a lot of it, and that can happen online as well. And so while you're in quarantine visiting Seoul from abroad, you can actually begin to work from home and have deliveries and things happen as well. Day 4 and 5, maybe there's even filming for the portrait gallery interviews. Day 6, maybe there's a book launch. And then I'll just go more quickly through this. There could also be cross-curatorial workshops. For instance, there was a lot of comments from the previous biennales that people didn't get to meet. So we could all do this online as well. And then the food trucks are an incredible idea that's been presented. They can also be deliveries and be able to include the people that are in quarantine and bring them food, bring them things like this, and use them as a kind of infrastructure. The virtual app could have its own launch. The live projects could then subsequently also be launched to get people used to moving through the city. And then the global studios, because a lot of studios cannot actually visit, they can also have a soft opening and have a symposium online as well. And then similarly, the cities exhibit could also have a kind of online opening, but also an offline component where people are invited to the roof of the Seoul Hall of Urbanism for a kind of outdoor symposium. Then of course, day 15, the quarantine is over. You can go out of your hotel. After these 14 days, there could have been a wide range of events, and there could be a grand opening of the thematic exhibit, and really a 24-hour event that can include all the participants. So this is just a quick idea of how maybe we can sequence and really have visitors, but also work within the confines and the rules of the quarantine process. Thank you very much.
네, 2021 서울
Thank you
도시건축
very much.
비엔날레를 위해서 현장에서
That
한참
was
또 준비
Professor
중이신
John
전홍
Hong, who is
학술
on site
위원님의
preparing for
프로그램
next year's
소개
Biennale.
만나봤는데요.
He spoke on behalf of the
분야,
Science
도시건축 분야
Committee,
전문가 분들로 이루어진 10분의 위원분들과 함께
consists of
한창
10
다가올 2021
experts of urban
도시건축
architecture.
비엔날레를 위해서 애써주고 계십니다. 한 분 한 분의 위원분들께 감사의
I'd
큰
like
박수 한번
to
주시면
take this
좋겠습니다.
opportunity to thank each and every member of the scientific committee.
네, 고맙습니다. 자,
Thank you very
이제
much.
2020 서울 도시건축
Now,
프리비엔날레 도미니크 페로 총 감독님이 준비하신
General
특별한
Director
뜻깊은 영상과
Dominique
함께
Perrault has
다음 이어질
prepared a video
큐레이트 주제
for us.
발표 세션을 준비하는
And
시간과 함께 또 휴식의 시간 갖도록
with that,
하겠습니다.
after that,
네,
we'll have
우리
a
다음
break
세션을
time
위해서 함께
for the next
해주시고요.
session. So
영상
we will take a
만나보겠습니다.
break time while we watch the video.
La prochaine biennale de Séoul d'architecture et d'urbanisme aura lieu en septembre 2021. Cette date est une date qui va s'inscrire dans un programme architectural international de très grande intensité. En effet, en 2021 aura lieu la Biennale de Venise au mois de mai, le Congrès mondial de l'Union internationale des architectes, l'UIA, en juillet, et Séoul, la Biennale d'architecture et d'urbanisme, en septembre. C'est dans cet enchaînement que l'on veut positionner l'intervention de centaines de contributions qui vont accompagner cette année, je dirais, exceptionnelle en ce qui concerne l'architecture. 2021 sera un grand rendez-vous. Si l'on prend par exemple le thème de la Biennale de Venise, qui pose la question « Comment allons-nous vivre ?» À Séoul, nous allons demander « Où allons-nous vivre ?» Et c'est bien la question que nous posons, c'est-à-dire la question des villes, la question de comment nos structures qui accueillent toutes les populations vont devenir résilientes. Résilientes, ce n'est pas aujourd'hui un vain mot, l'actualité nous oblige à bâtir une ville résiliente. Et pour bâtir une ville résiliente, on doit le faire ensemble, bien sûr, mais surtout, on doit le faire en croisant des territoires, des savoirs, des visions, des inventions, des engagements. Et cette vision, cet engagement que nous voulons porter, c'est ce que nous avons appelé Crossroads, le croisement, l'intersection, la rencontre. Et donc nous avons imaginé 5 thèmes, 5 crossroads.
예,
Un premier
잠시
crossroad
안내 말씀 하나
qui est
드리겠습니다. 지금
above
행사장
I would
왼편과
like to
오른편
make
끝에
an
보시면은요,
announcement.
커피와
We
다과가
have
준비가 되어
beverages and
있는데요.
snacks
aujourd'hui
prepared on the
즐겨주시면
side,
좋겠습니다.
and I would like to ask you
L'idée,
to go
c'est de
for
lier ces mondes,
a
que
beverage
ces
or a
mondes
snack
soient
during the break.
croisés,
Thank you.
qu'ils se rencontrent et qu'ils fonctionnent ensemble. Parce que nous avons un objectif, celui
Ladies and gentlemen,
de
we
réduire
prepared some coffee
l'étalement
and
de la ville.
cookies at the
La ville
left and
doit
right
être
side
prise
at
dans
this
un
hall,
périmètre
and please enjoy the coffee
voté
break
par le
time.
citoyen, décidé par le citoyen, un périmètre fermé dans lequel et sur lequel la ville puisse se développer avec intensité, mais aussi en offrant une proximité pour ceux qui y habitent. La ville ne peut plus dévorer les territoires agricoles, naturels, environnants. La ville doit se bâtir sur elle-même, mais aussi sous elle-même, afin que, comme un arbre, elle développe ce système racinaire qui va la nourrir et qui va lui permettre de ne plus s'étendre comme une tache d'huile, mangeant, dévorant, comme je le disais, l'ensemble des paysages. Le deuxième croisement, le deuxième crossroad, c'est la question de l'héritage et de la modernité. C'est le crossroad architectural. En effet, le XXe siècle a bâti plus de mètres carrés que toute l'histoire de l'humanité. Et donc nous avons en fait un héritage, un patrimoine qui nous est donné. Et l'idée, ce n'est pas de construire encore, mais c'est d'utiliser mieux. Et pour utiliser mieux, il faut réhabiliter, restructurer ce qui existe. Et donc nous allons avoir ce rapprochement, ce croisement, ce lien entre héritage et modernité. C'est le croisement qui parle d'architecture au sens, je dirais, le plus noble du terme. Il s'agit bien d'habiter, il s'agit bien d'utiliser ces lieux, de créer des lieux pour abriter l'ensemble des populations. Et puis il y a un autre croisement, un autre crossroad qui est important et qui touche aussi chacun chez lui, c'est-à-dire la relation qu'il peut avoir avec la production de son environnement. Ce crossroad, on l'a appelé Craft and Digital. L'idée de Craft and Digital, c'est de pouvoir de chez soi commander la transformation de son environnement, l'amélioration de son environnement, d'intervenir dans la production industrielle à partir de chez soi. C'est-à-dire que bien sûr, il y a du craft, il y a des notions manuelles, des notions de fabrication. Mais ces notions de fabrication, elles sont mises en relation avec le numérique. C'est-à-dire que ce numérique ne soit pas lié à une abstraction, mais que ce numérique nous permette d'intervenir sur ce qui est physique, sur ce qui est tactile, sur ce qui nous environne. Et donc Craft and Digital, c'est la permanence de l'intervention de chacun sur la chaîne de production. C'est-à-dire, c'est une autre lecture de l'industrialisation. C'est une autre lecture de la mondialisation. Ensuite, le quatrième crossroad, c'est natural and artificial. Nous connaissons aujourd'hui toute la géographie de la planète. Nous avons un ensemble de données, elles se précisent de plus en plus. Donc, nous avons la définition parfaite de la géographie de notre planète. Nous sommes dans un monde fini. Et donc, il n'y a plus d'espace naturel au sens sauvage du terme. Toute la nature devient de fait artificielle, puisqu'elle fait partie, d'une certaine façon, de l'anthropocène de l'individu. Et cette dimension est totalement nouvelle pour l'humanité. C'est-à-dire que l'humanité qui pensait qu'elle pouvait s'échapper vers d'autres terres,
네,
aujourd'hui
여러분께
l'humanité
안내
est
말씀드립니다.
dans un monde
이제 곧
qu'elle connaît,
시작될
qui est
주제
son
발표
monde,
세션을
qu'elle doit
위해서
préserver,
천천히 자리해
qu'elle
주시기
doit
바랍니다.
entretenir.
To
2분 뒤에
invite
다음
everyone to
세션을
return to their seats, we
시작하겠습니다.
are
Et pour
going
cela,
to resume in
il
2
faut
minutes.
produire de la nature. Et donc, le naturel et l'artificiel, aujourd'hui, ne font plus qu'un. Il faut construire de la nature, comme on construit des bâtiments, et il faut préserver
Please
la
everyone pay
nature
attention
comme
to
on
this
préserve des
announcement.
monuments historiques.
And next
Donc ce
session
crossroad est un
will
crossroad
begin in
extrêmement
2
important,
minutes.
car il déplace
So, please
d'une certaine
take your
façon
seat. Thank you
l'histoire
very
de
much.
l'architecture sur un autre champ de recherche, qui est le champ de la géographie. En fait, la production d'une nouvelle géographie. Et cette biennale souhaite participer à la mise en place de cette nouvelle géographie. Enfin, le cinquième crossroad
네, 여러분 2020 서울
questionnera
도시건축
la
프리비엔날레
capacité de
다음
l'architecture et de
세션을
l'urbanisme
위해서
à
이제
s'adapter,
착석해
à
주시면
transformer ou à
감사하겠습니다.
accueillir
Ladies and gentlemen,
les
I'd like to
multiples
invite you to
risques
take
du
your
monde
seats.
Next
Ce
session
crossroad
will
s'intitule
begin soon.
Safe and Risk. C'est bien le
So every
croisement
distinguished
du
guest,
progrès
please be seated.
avec l'inconnu que porte le progrès et l'inscription de la ville dans son histoire, sur son territoire, comme élément de sécurité des populations, des quartiers. Et donc c'est bien cette ambivalence que l'on cherche à mettre en évidence. La ville contemporaine qui se construit avec le risque du monde contemporain, mais qui intègre la sécurité des citoyens afin que cette invention collective soit une invention au service de l'humanité.
네. 오늘 프리비엔날레 전시 발표
So
세션인데요.
we are going to listen
아직
to
현장에
a
계신 우리
presentation
참석자분들 조금 휴식 시간 갖고
about
계셔서
the
모두
thematic
참석하시면 이제
exhibition.
시작하도록 하겠습니다.
We will start once everyone
파리시
has
시청
returned to their
현지도
seats.
잠깐 지금 브레이크 타임을 갖고 계신
And
것
I
같고요.
think Paris has taken a break too.
네, 지금 이곳 비움홀 주변에 계신 우리 참석자분들 속히
I'd
마련된
like to
자리에
invite
참석해
all
주시면
of our guests
감사하겠습니다.
to return to their seats so that we can begin.
Please, every distinguished guest here, please be seated for beginning the next session. 네, 2020 서울 도시건축 프리비엔날레 순서 하나하나마다 여러분의 참여와 그리고 응원의 마음이 큰 힘이 되고 있습니다. 이제 큐레이터 전시 발표 세션을 앞두고 있고요. 현장에 계신 모든 분들 착석하시면 다음 세션 곧 이어가도록 하겠습니다. 네, 우리 서울과 파리 이원 생방송으로 함께하고 계십니다. 2020 서울 도시건축 프리 비엔날레 이제 본격적인 전시 발표 세션의 시간입니다. 서울 도시건축 프리 비엔날레 큐레이터 전시는요. 주제전과 도시 및 서울전, 글로벌 스튜디오전, 그리고 현장 프로젝트전 이렇게 4개의 주제로 함께하고 계시고요. 도미니크 페로 총감독님의 발표와 함께 먼저 열어보도록 하겠습니다. 화면으로 감독님 만나뵐게요. So please, Mr. Director, start your presentation. 네, 지금 조금 연결에 문제가 있는 것 같고요. 마이크가 소리가 좀 안 나오는 것 같습니다.
We're not getting any sound. Please bear with us.
네, 우리 총 감독님께 다시 좀 부탁을 드려야 될 것 같네요. 지금
I think that
조금 개선이
we
되면은
have to
다시 좀
ask
발표를
our
좀 들어야 될 것 같거든요.
General Director to start his presentation
Please,
again
Mr. Director, can you
because
hear me?
there is a sound issue.
이쪽에서도 좀 잘 전달이 안 되는
I
것
don't think he
같습니다.
can hear us, unfortunately.
Que j'aborderai, c'est la notion d'architecture et d'infrastructure, c'est-à-dire un thème qui va permettre non seulement de mettre en relation le monde de l'ingénierie,
the theme
mais
that
aussi
I
le
will
monde du
be
paysage
talking about
et également le monde de
is things
l'architecture.
like
Et c'est bien le
landscape
croisement
and other factors related to architecture. So it's in fact crossroad.
Très bien. Bon, excusez-moi, il y a eu un petit problème technique, donc je vais reprendre ma présentation. C'est une présentation.
There was some technical issues, so let me start from the
파리
beginning.
현지의 음향 시스템이
de la
조금
Biennale
말썽을
et
일으키고
les
있는 것
autres
같은데요. 네,
curateurs
계속
vont enchaîner
들어보겠습니다.
pour leur partie afin de vous présenter la diversité des thèmes
The
qui seront abordés
curators
lors de la Biennale de 2021.
We'll be
En ce qui
talking about
concerne
different
quelques mots sur le
things,
dispositif, nous allons accueillir
but
dans le
let me
DDP,
say
nous
a few
allons
things
accueillir
first. In
l'ensemble
the
des
case of
contributions.
GDP,
Pardon, je m'excuse, mais je n'ai pas d'image. Ah voilà, pardon. Voilà, ça fonctionne, pardon. Donc nous allons accueillir dans le DDP l'ensemble des
this is the
contributions.
DDP,
Ces contributions
the thematic
vont être
exhibition
en fait
taking place
un peu
in
présentées sous forme
DDP, the
d'un échiquier,
Dongdaemun
mais un
Design
échiquier,
Plaza.
si je puis dire,
What you are
raisonné,
seeing
dans le sens
right
où
here
nous allons
is
transformer ces
the site
contributions
that is
qui
organized like a
prennent place sur une
chessboard.
grille en constellations. Ces constellations
things,
vont former des archipels avec des thématiques
this
et
is
des
designed
thématiques
like
qui
a
vont non
constellation.
seulement renvoyer
The
à un
different themes will
croisement,
be organized in the
comme
shape
on
of
l'évoquait tout à l'heure,
constellations.
mais plutôt
This
à
will
quelque chose de plus
include
large
crossroads,
qui
the
permet
concept of
petit à
crossroads,
petit
as well as
d'imaginer une
broader
ville ou une forme de
themes.
quartier. En ce qui me concerne,
It will
la
allow
thématique
us to
architecture et infrastructure,
think
c'est
about
pour moi l'idée de
the
rassembler
architecture
ingénieurs,
and
architectes
infrastructure
et paysagistes.
and the
Autour de
relationship
l'architecture
between
et de
that.
l'infrastructure,
I believe in
formant
this
comme un
respect,
seul
it's a
et même
combination
ensemble,
of
on va trouver
architects,
évidemment
landscape
l'ensemble
designers,
des
and
communautés,
engineers.
l'ensemble de ceux qui
It becomes a
fabriquent et vivent
community made
les
up of
villes,
these three
avec
different
en
roles.
particulier
These are the three
les
peoples
paysagistes. Nous
who
voulons mettre
create
en place
the
un
elements that
dispositif
make up
qui
the city.
annonce des
In the
projets
case
de
of
paysages,
landscape,
et qui ne sont pas seulement des parcs, mais qui sont surtout des lieux où la
it's
nature est
not just
fabriquée
about
à
creating
partir
and
de
designing
l'architecture,
parks.
à partir de
It's
l'ingénierie.
also
L'ingénierie,
about
pour nous, est
designing the
également
nature of the
un
city.
thème important,
It
car
starts with
l'ingénierie
engineering
bâtit les
and
infrastructures. Ces
architecture,
infrastructures doivent être finalement d'une certaine
but the
façon domestiquées.
surrounding environment is
Il faut
created
qu'elles
by
s'intègrent
the
à ce
landscape.
mélange avec
The architects
la
create
question de
the
l'architecture
structures,
sous forme de
they design the
responsabilité,
structures,
car
but
le
the
thème des
engineers
âges, c'est bien
allows
l'engagement
us
de
to
chacun à
control
construire une
the
ville
structure.
résiliente. Exemple,
In
par
our
exemple,
Biennale, we'll talk about how these three entities can work together and contribute towards building a resilient city. This is a case in Genoa, where Renzo Piano rebuilt a bridge after it was destroyed. For vaults, he created a landscape, and in this case it was building the earth, because what he built spread throughout the region and created a better environment for living. In this respect, infrastructure of the city is very important. We need to pool all our resources and knowledge in order to build a suitable infrastructure. The other curators will be also making their presentations.
Yes, we will now listen to presentations on the city exhibit, global studio, and local projects, in addition to the thematic exhibit, which was presented by Dominique Béraud. We are now going to invite the different curators to present their projects. First, I would like to invite curator Choi Chun to present the city's exhibition. Please give him a big hand. Good afternoon. I am the curator of the city exhibit for SBAU 21, and it will be held at DDP with the thematic exhibit. And here at Shua, we will have the Seoul exhibit here too. And Chun Jing-un, Choi Jin-ung, and Narara curator will be one team in order to work on this together. Because of the location of the Seoul Hall, we are in the middle of the city, right in front of the Seoul municipality. So we would like to engage in a hybrid exhibit where there will be forums and exhibitions. As was explained by Dominique, under the theme of Crossroads, we would like to talk about the future of cities, which will be our sub-theme. Humanity is at a crossroads. We want to identify what kind of cities we need to develop for the future. We need to come out with some responses to the crises we are facing in the city, and we would like to learn from what we do. And we think that cities have three aspects. We think that future cities will be wild. Until now, cities tended to make nature invisible and wanted to separate themselves from nature, but no longer. We believe there will be a convergence and that there will be an integration with the wild inside the city. It will be a wild city, a more eco-friendly city. And the second aspect of a future city is that this city will be post-human. It will no longer be a city focused on the human. It will be a city where AI, where the human and post-human will have to coexist together. And lastly, future cities will be crowdsourced or participative. People will gather together, work together, and live together. This is no longer sustainable like it was in the past. We need to find a way to coexist and survive together. Social distancing is not just the end of social distancing and reconnecting. It's trying to find a new way to reconnect. Seoul is at the center of everything, and Seoul will be able to share its vision of the future with other cities. As the host of SBAU 21, we would like to focus on these aspects, and the future of the city is already here. And we would like to share what Seoul looks like with other global cities. And we are planning different spaces, and we are thinking of organizing different exhibits in these spaces. And in the post-COVID era, we would like to enable people to look at the post-human exhibits from the eye of the other, and not just a subjective view. Through different forums, we would like to develop background context, and we ask for your active participation and interest. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Choi-chung. We will resume with the curator's presentation. Mark Brosa will be talking about the global studios as the curator. He will be taking the stage. Please welcome him with a warm round of applause.
Thank you. My name is Mark Brosa. I'm the curator of the Global Studios exhibition, and it's a privilege to be part of this event. So I would like to extend my gratitude for the opportunity to be here. As you know, the Biennale, with the title Crossroads, Building the Resilient City, this third edition of the Seoul Biennale is a response to the context of systemic crises that are pushing humanity to a tipping point. This year, there are quite a few architectural events, or next year. What sets the Seoul Biennale apart, or will set it, is first and foremost that it is a Biennale about cities, not only architecture, as Dominique Perrault has expressed. And secondly, that besides featuring the work of experts and institutions, it also gives a prevalent role to students. And here is where the global studios come in. Our exhibition will be an academic platform for the production, sharing, and archiving of architectural knowledge. Schools of architecture and design from all over the world have been invited to respond to the crucial moment we are facing by exploring the concept of refuge as a space of safety and resilience. The notion of refuge relates to the provision of shelter or protection from a threat, a basic need which arguably triggered the emergence of architecture in the first place. Gottfried Zempa, in his pivotal text, The Four Elements of Architecture, claimed the first sign of human settlement was the setting up of the fireplace as the most important element of architecture. The three other elements, the roof, the enclosure, and the mound, were arranged around the central flame to protect it from the hostile forces of nature. The refuge as a basic form of shelter is also tightly related to the room as the most evident architectural space. Louis Kahn claimed the room was the beginning of architecture since it contained its most basic physical characteristics: dimension, structure, and light. But beyond those physical features, the room was also the place of the mind, a personal space. But the crucial significance of the refuge nowadays is related to humanitarian crises. Crises that are environmental, as 20% of the countries are at risk of ecosystem collapse, or the refugee asylum crisis at a point when, according to the UN, the number of people fleeing violence in 2019 was the largest recorded since World War II, topping a growing progression since 2010. This refugee boom has driven the organization to partner with IKEA to develop a flat-pack emergency refugee shelter system. We're also facing a looming housing crisis that is systemic to the globalized neoliberal capitalist system, as millions of families around the globe struggle to find a decent and affordable place to call home. All this is set within the background of an accelerated urbanization process. According to the UN, by 2050, 68% of the world's population will be urban, adding 2.5 billion people to cities over the next 30 years, mostly in Asia and Africa. These are extraordinary challenges that question not only our lifestyles, but our very livelihood. Of course, this crisis cannot be addressed only from the field of architecture and urbanism. That would be a naive overestimation of the impact of these disciplines. But at the same time, by shaping the relationship between mankind and the environment, architecture and urbanism are not just a passive result of political or economic decisions. They matter because they embody those decisions. The investigations, speculations, and provocations of the students will be displayed in temporary housing prototypes that we call refuges. They will be designed by the students themselves and located in important public spaces around Seoul, forming a constellation of temporary student-designed venues. The goals that we are after with the global studios are three. First, to take the work of the students outside of the academic environment and share their energy and creativity with the general public. Second, to show society that the next generation of architects and designers is socially committed and continues to respond efficiently to extreme situations. And three, to widen the presence of the Biennale throughout the city. So in closing, the question we're asking with the global studios is, what can architecture and urbanism offer to society in a situation of crisis? Thank you very much.
네, 글로벌 스튜디오에 대한 주제 마크
Thank
브로사
you. That
큐레이터님의
was Mark
발표로
Brossa
만나봤고요.
who
네,
presented
이제
Global
현장
Studios
프로젝트
project. Now let's
주제로
listen
함께
to
하겠는데요.
the
발표를
live project
푸하하하 프렌즈의
presentation.
윤한진
Puhaha
큐레이터님이 준비하고
Friends,
계십니다.
Yoon
푸하하하는요,
Han-jin will be
한국
making the
사람들이 참
presentation.
유쾌할 때
Puhaha
짓는
is the way
웃음이거든요. 특히
Koreans
젊은
laugh
세대들이
when they
자기의
are
즐거운
very
기분을
happy.
표현할 때
Young
쓰는
people, when
의성어이기도
they
합니다.
laugh,
푸하하하 프렌즈의 윤한진
they
큐레이터님
use the
부탁드립니다.
word puhaha. Please go ahead.
저는 2021년 서울도시 건축 비엔날레
Hello.
현장 프로젝트의 큐레이터.
I am the curator of live projects for the SBAU 21. I am from Puhaha Friends. My name is Yoon Han-jin.
저희 라이브 프로젝트의 고민은
For our live projects, we wanted to connect the citizens and architecture in an easy way. Until now, we talked about tradition and new development and renovation, and we mainly focused our discourse on big subjects in our discussion. And these type of discourses do not really help us understand the city. And even if we do understand the city better, it simplifies our perception of the city. So we thought that we needed to change that. Children, they walk around the neighborhood with sticks, they step on the manholes, and they leave marks only they can understand. They sometimes bury their treasure in the city, and kids use all the objects in the city to make their maps and they have their own memory of the city. It's an exploration, and it's also some kind of play. And like kids, we want to walk around the city in a free way, and we would like to connect the different roads and alleys, and that would be what the crossroads could do. Everyone makes their own map, and kids make their own map, and so suspicious footsteps is the theme that we set up for our live projects. Hansel and Gretel, if you know the story, they put breadcrumbs in the forest to find their way back. And just imagine finding these breadcrumbs in the forest. That's very suspicious. And so these small breadcrumbs could become a hint in the city so that we can help the citizens discover the city through these different hints. And they will be able to discover a completely new city. They will discover a city in unexpected places. They will be able to think of new connections, and they may be able to find a new value in something that they already know. This is Uchiro area, and we used the instrument of unit, and we asked 4 literary writers to explore this neighborhood, Uchiro. It can become a novel, it can become an essay. I don't know what kind of writing will come out, but writing is free from form, and even when we consume writing, it doesn't disappear, and there's no restriction on space. And writing can help people imagine. Each of the writers will discover hidden stories inside the city, and we would like to test the theory on whether we will be able to make it more prominent. And through the 4 literary work of the writers, we are going to try to find out whether it can be transformed into architecture. Writing and architecture, what is tangible and what is intangible. And through the connection of unit, we believe that we will be able to connect everything together. We are going to hold this exhibit in Seoul Plaza. And Seoul, the city in which we live, is a city that has been dreamt by many dreamers in the past. And in that sense, the experiment of life projects will create a city through metamorphosis and show citizens that it can be done. And we ask for the active participation and engagement of our citizens. Thank you.
네, 윤한진 큐레이터님이 진행하고 계시는 현장 프로젝트.
That was the live project curated by Mr. Yu Han-jin. We look forward to that. Thank you for your presentation.
여러분, 2021 서울 도시건축 비엔날레에서 처음으로 우리가 진행한 프로그램이 있습니다. 바로 국제 공모전인데요. 그래서 기대를 모으고 있습니다. 이번에도요, 도미니크 페로 총 감독님과 함께 말씀 나눠보도록 하겠는데요.
Dominic Pero will also be making this presentation. Can you talk about the significance of the call for proposals and introduce it?
Oui, le moment de la Pre-Biennale est un moment très intéressant.
Yes.
Car c'est un moment.
The Pre-Biennale, I believe, is a very important event because it signifies the start of this program. We haven't decided on all the programs yet. Puhaha just made the presentation, and as we heard, there's a crossroad between architecture and literature, and Brosa talked about the refuge. Refuge was not something that was designed. There are cities that are designed, but there are also cities that are not designed. So we can think about the future of the city. We are at the starting line, but I think we have put forward a very successful first step. The fact Seoul City agreed to have the call for proposals, and we believe that the call for proposals will enrich the 2021 SBAU. I want to continue with the strength of the past biennales and build on it. Call for proposals encourages participation from around the world, and it's a way of accumulating projects. There's also a fast track, which is by invitation. The architects are well aware of the fast track, and the call for proposals is another way of letting other people know. You can either be invited, or you can either submit your proposals in response to the call for proposals. We will then get a list, and that will contain many proposals. If you look at how the process is going on, we will make the final selection at the end of this year, and we will decide on the final scenography. We saw the proposed projects, and there was a great diversity. Many people registered for that, and about 1,000 submissions were received. Of those, we selected about 400 projects as a preliminary step. Many people responded from around the world, and there were so many interesting projects. There were landscape experts and architects who are well known, but there were also new budding architects and landscape designers. There were extraordinary proposals, so we first categorized them, and we are currently compiling them. If you look at the call for proposals, we can see that it is truly global. 1/4 came from Asia, 1/4 came from Europe, and the remaining 50% came from other countries. There were 1,400 submissions and 120 shortlisted candidates. In the end, we will end with about 60 or 70 projects or proposals. We also have a fast track, which is inviting people like Lenzo Piano. Actually, I didn't invite Lenzo Piano to introduce his recent project, but in Genoa, they had a bridge that collapsed due to a disaster. So we asked him to tell the story about that project. Other famous architects like Ito, Sejima are also participating. We have invited these world famous architects, and many people have shown interest as well very recently. So we have the fast track on one hand, and then we have the invited cities, and then we have the candidates who responded to the call for proposals. Based on the proposals, we will be selecting those that will be exhibited at DDP. Furthermore, as we heard in Prague, Prague, there will be exhibitions held throughout the city of Seoul. That means that the 2021 Seoul Biennale will be truly global and extraordinary. I hope many of you attend and visit, not only on site but also online. Let us all come together to talk about tomorrow's architecture, tomorrow's city, and tomorrow's art. This will re-energize humankind. Thank you.
네, 도미니크 페로 총감독님
Thank you
고맙습니다. 네, 여러분 이제 본격적으로 우리
to our
시작과 뜻을 나누는
General
라운드 세션
Director.
앞두고
Now we
있는데요.
are going to
무대를
have
우리가
a
준비를 해야
round
됩니다.
session, panel
오늘
discussion,
이렇게 프리비엔날레 진행 중에
and we will need
우리
to
파리와 서울의
reorganize
우정을
the
질투하는 것 같은
stage,
시스템에 좀 말씀이
and
있었습니다만
there were some technical glitches in Paris, but I believe that these problems have been resolved.
네, 이제 본격적인 라운드 테이블
We are now
세션
going to
준비하고
start the
있는데요.
roundtable session.
반복해서 말씀드렸듯이 우리의 화두 크로스로드 어떤
And
도시에 살
we are
것인가
going to discuss the
본격적으로
theme of our
이에 대한
Biennale,
생각과
Crossroads,
뜻을 논의하는
Building
그런
the
자리가 될
Resilient City,
겁니다.
and we will have a free discussion on this
지금까지 또 우리
subject.
여러 가지 주제 발표 또
We've
그다음에
listened to
마음을
different
대표하시는 분들의 또
presentations,
소회를 통해서
and
우리가 도시건축 비엔날레를 통해서 이루어갈
we
비전과
also heard
계획들을
about the vision of the Seoul Biennale of Architecture and Urbanism. And during the roundtable session, we are going to develop a blueprint through our discussions.
우리 토론 진행을 해주실
I'd like to
분입니다.
introduce
최춘웅
the
큐레이터님,
moderator
아까 도시
of our
전체
roundtable,
발표에서
the
해주셨었죠?
curator
박수로
of the
맞이해
city
주시고요.
exhibit. Professor Chechun will be
그리고 우리 파리
moderating
현장에서
the
도미니크
roundtable
페로
session.
총감독님께서
We will have Dominique
라운드 테이블
Perrault
세션
from
함께
Paris
해주실
who will
겁니다.
be
그리고
joining the
우리 학습
roundtable
위원님들,
session.
큐레이터님들
And I'd like to
패널로 올라오고
invite our
계시는데요. 박수로
curators
맞이해
and
주시기
members of the
바랍니다.
scientific committee to join us for the
네, 그럼
roundtable
이제
session.
좌장으로 이 시간 이끌어 주실
I will
최춘웅
now turn
큐레이터님께
over the
마이크
microphone
넘겨드리겠습니다.
to curator Chechun to moderate this session. Hello, I am the city exhibit curator Chechun, and I will be moderating this roundtable. I'd like to thank you all for staying with us until the end for this pre-Biennale event. Thanks to your support and encouragement, I believe that our SBAU 21 will be even more successful next year, and all of the curators feel a heavy sense of responsibility, and we believe that we need to do our best to not disappoint you. I would like to reintroduce the members of the scientific committee before we begin. Because of COVID-19, we have the General Director of SBAU 21 and the Curator of Thematic Exhibit, Mr. Dominique Perrault. We also have the Global Studio Curator, Marc Brossa. We have the Live Projects Curator, Hanyangyu Yunanjin from Puhaha Friends. And we also have a member of the scientific committee, Professor Lee Yoon-hee. Before we start, I would like to invite Dominique Perrault to say a few words. In the world, many cities have been impacted by the pandemic. And under the theme of Crossroads, do you think that these issues that we are facing and the situation that the cities are facing, do you think we can connect this to the theme of the Biennale, which is Crossroads? I believe we can, and I think that the first idea that we had of crossroads, of the crossroads of perception, the crossroads of knowledge that we wanted to use, has become something that has become a given. And 1 year ago, Crossroads would have been a political and aesthetical attitude, or the study of new environments, new ideas, and it would have been an attitude of active engagement. I think that this Biennale, we are waiting for it, we are hoping for it to unfurl as a Biennale that will give us some answers on what we need to do together in order to build, to organize, to help our territory and our cities live. Not differently, but in a different way. Because we have to take into account the fact that our structures are global, our population is also global, not in quantity, but in quality. We are becoming more and more globalized. And this qualitative aspect is the result of an aesthetical thinking which enables everyone to develop their perceptions, their viewpoints, their feelings, because they live in a certain neighborhood, because they live in a certain city, because they live in a certain environment. And this is what we want to show and talk about through Crossroads in September in 2021 in Seoul.
Thank you very much. I think that theme has become more relevant than ever. I'd like to ask the first question to Iuni, a member of the Scientific Committee. As you just heard, there are many interpretations possible on that theme. From your perspective, what does our theme Crossroads have? What meaning does that theme Crossroads have? You can hear me, right? Mr. Perrault first thought about the theme when he agreed to assume the role of General Director. He thought for a long time, and since he is a person dedicated to solid architecture, he thought about this a lot, but I realized after working for a long time with him that he has a very flexible mind. I felt that the Biennale, we consider the fact that the Biennale will be taking place in 2021. In other words, after the coronavirus, the COVID-19 crisis. So resilience has a special meaning, and recovery from COVID-19 becomes a sub-theme. It's by coincidence that we're going through COVID-19, and it's not going to go away for a while. It'll probably last until well into next year. In that sense, we mean, I think that the fact that the Crossroads, building a resilient city, has become more important than what we imagined it to be. It has become a very, very relevant theme. Typically, cities and architecture are about physical things. So our perception is that it's something fixed, and we tend to regard cities as something fixed. But while we were preparing for the Biennale, we have curators here who will agree, but our strategy of curation has to be more of a strategy that responds and reacts to situation. For instance, we had an unexpected incident today as well. There are many things unexpected in life, and in this respect, I hope that the 2021 Biennale is more loose, more comfortable, not too stressful, and an opportunity for everybody to bounce up.
공간이 무겁거든요.
The ambiance in this room is quite heavy as well, and as the curator from Puhaha just said, we need to liven up a little and make Biennale something that we can enjoy. The process has to be enjoyable. So Crossroads and the Resilient City will be there, but we want it to be a little bit, the curating can also uplift us.
Thank you for those comments. And as you said, because of COVID-19, so many things have changed in the world. So under the major theme Crossroads, we have put in the many sub-themes like building the resilient city. And we have added the theme of shelter and refuge, and Global Studio has started working on that, because the problem and the issue of refugees is a serious problem. And I think you are talking about refuge in the age of COVID-19. I have two questions for Professor Mark Brosa. The concept of refuge, as you just explained to us, is it to respond to the situation and you wanted to expand that concept? I want to listen to your explanation. And secondly, because of COVID-19, many universities around the world are in difficulty. So when you were trying to engage with them or contact them, were there any difficulties because of COVID-19? If you have anything to tell us about that too.
Thank you, Charlie. Very good questions. So the idea of refuge, I think it's a very interesting one, because refuge is a very understandable concept. And as Dominique Perrault has explained, it's something that is not, we don't require designers to do it. It's something that people do because they need protection. So it's kind of a very basic idea, but at the same time, it's very powerful because it encapsulates, or it has the power to mean very different things for very different people. So we're talking about now, it seems like COVID is the big enemy right now, but maybe it will go away and then something else will come up, as Professor Yu was saying. So I don't think COVID is the big topic of the Biennale. I think the idea is resilience, because COVID would be just an instance of these dangers that might come to us. And I would say, I mean, and I hope, I don't want to be a bearer of bad news, but I think more will come, probably, because we're phagocytating the environment. So unless something big happens, these things will come, keep coming. So we have to be ready for them. So I think the idea of refuge, yes, it's protection, but it depends on what you define by protection. So then it opens up to a wide range of interpretations. And while originally it seems like it would directly respond to the crossroads of risk and safety, then you start to realize that because it has a very sort of tectonic component, it also deals directly with the idea of digital or craftsmanship, or the above below, or even with the idea of preservation and modern. So it's very wide. The idea was that it would be a wide spectrum of things to open up possibilities of interpretation. And then in terms of the response from the schools, because of our schedule, because of the academic schools, the academic schedule of the schools, we had to start earlier than many other parts of the Biennale. So the contacts with schools started earlier, and I thought I was amazed by the quality and variety of responses, because yes, COVID is being an issue with many schools getting less students. So then some of the studios couldn't really go on as predicted. But at the same time, I think it has provided a kind of common project, something that has brought different schools together to work on a common issue that's actually very present. So it has provided this platform for discussion and for generating of synergies between different schools. So in that sense, I think we hope that it would provide some sort of a bright light at the end of the tunnel for people to have a project to contribute.
So there could be a hidden risk somewhere in the future. That seems to be what you were saying. So we have to be able to quickly build refuges in response. There are many different threats, and we need to react and respond. Therefore, disaster and safety become very important issues. Mr. Perrault showed us the bridge in Genoa by Lorenzo Piano, and it was built very quickly in an unprecedented speed, participated by many people. This sort of quick response is at the center of resilience. So I'd like to ask General Director Pero to add on a little bit. Architecture, infrastructure, can you link that to talk about architecture, engineering and landscape, which you are trying to combine? Do you think these are the conditions for resilience? Or when we link resilience to infrastructure, how can we more specifically link resilience to infrastructure? I believe that the themes should become examples, not one example, but one of the many examples. These are very meaningful themes. In some respect, we need to be optimistic, and we have to reveal something. What we creators have as a sense of responsibility. People like us need to envision the environment that we want, and in this process we have to show our responsibility. We have to show these things, and it is closely linked with what Professor Lee Yuni said. This makes us impassioned, and it allows us to be optimistic. We can arrive at happiness through unexpected things. Architecture is a heavy subject. Infrastructure is a very rigid structure, but we link them together, and this allows us to reveal a space that is more passionate. This sort of architecture, for example, it could be a building built during a dictatorship, but we can use this building for better purposes and to build solidarity.
Thank you for those comments. I have another question for Dominique. You presented your call for proposals, your open bid and open call for proposals, and you said it was a success. 1,000 artists registered, and you reviewed all of these proposals, and I think that everybody would like to know, what is your criteria for selecting the artist? What is the most important criteria for you when you select an artist? I think this will interest everyone who's watching us through YouTube. It's the engagement of the project, the aesthetical engagement of the project. That is my most important criteria. What is the answer that is provided for environmental problems? How does design and production resolve these issues? Many artists showed interest in new materials. It was connected with technology. It was also connected with the reuse of existing technologies, and there were some tactile installations. Some of the installations, all of the installations presented a kind of a scenography. So people could see light, an analysis, a message. There has to be a message. There has to be an emotional response that the viewer can see. And at the same time, we have to be able to learn, to look at things from a new perspective so that we can share. This is a biennale that is interested in a happy reading. A happy reading that would like to discover new things, new proposals, unexpected proposals through the installations, and we would like to discover these things through the Biennale.
네, 정말 더 그 작품들에 대한 기대가 높아지는
Yes, it makes us expect even more.
비엔날레는 마치 독서와 같은 경험을
Biennale
제공한다고
provides an
하셨는데요.
experience very much like reading.
문학과 건축, 글과 건축을 연결시키는
The literature and architecture is being linked by Puhaha. That was a very fresh approach. As a curator, selection of artists is very important, but finding these subjects are also difficult tasks. How were you able to identify these themes? Can you be a little bit light when you explain this time and not too heavy-handed? Yes, I'll try. When we first started to get ready for the exhibition, what we thought was most important was us being able to enjoy it. I'm sorry to say this, but until now we really didn't enjoy exhibitions. Even the two SBAUs that took place, we just watched it from far away. I think exhibition really leaves you with nothing unless you go there pre-prepared. So we wanted to look at exhibition from the general masses point of view. Isn't it true that when the general populace goes to exhibitions, and when these people aren't architecture students or experts, professionals, they're all thinking about something else. They're looking at, ooh, I wonder how much this costs to build. I wonder if everything's going to be thrown away afterwards. So when they should be focusing on what is being exhibited, they focus on something else. That's why we wanted to erase the title exhibition and allow the visitors to truly enjoy the experience. So the reason why we looked at children is because, well, actually we all play like kids. And in order to increase the participation of exhibitions, we needed something else. And at that time, we noticed how children played. What we thought was fun was how the children were able to find new orders at every instance. For example, they make up rules like, oh, let's just step on the white lines in the crossing lane. And that's a new order that they created at the moment. From the children's point of view, we've talked about so many difficult subjects when we talked about the cities. So let's try to become a little bit more innocent and look at the city from a fresh light. But we couldn't invite children and have them help us design the exhibition. We just wanted to make the exhibition more approachable and accessible to the general people. And that's why we decided to ask writers or literary artists to do some work for us. There wasn't any criteria for selecting the writers. Sometimes the writers were from different genres. Sometimes the writer would be somebody that we happen to know. But we're just looking at Urjiro, the confined venue, and we looked into every corner of that space. And we want the artists to be able to find out undiscovered aspects of the city within the confine of Urjiro.
작가분들을 모시게 되는 선정의 기준은
The criteria for selecting the architects were
호기심이 더 중요한 것 같아요.
just based on our curiosity. I think our curiosity is more important.
왔던 작업의 결과물이라든지
For example, the product of their work,
우리가
and that was the basis.
궁금한 사람들로 저희가 모셨거든요.
If we were curious and we wanted to know more about that person, then we decided to invite them. I think that exhibition will be very popular with elementary children, especially Mr. Han Yang-go, who's very interested in his children, could say something.
처음부터 이렇게 나온 건 아니었고요.
So we were not going to do this in this way from the beginning, and Dominique knows this. We looked at it this way and that way, and we asked ourselves questions. We asked ourselves, what is this that we want to do? But we thought a lot about leaving something. What happens after the exhibit? Is something left? We didn't think that the answer was archiving, and there were many exhibits and many projects in Ulchiro before, and we wanted to connect the tangible with the intangible. And books, writing, is something that stays behind even after the exhibit and the project. So maybe we could link the writing with the intangible, and we thought about unit that could be a connection. While we were preparing for the exhibit, we were a bit concerned because we didn't know how much freedom we could give them. Because if we tell them to do anything that they wanted to, they could just, take out the lights from that area and do something really crazy. So we wanted to give them some structure, and it's worked out really well right now, and we are very happy with the results as of now. Thank you.
Finally, I'd like to ask Professor Lee Yoon-hee to give some advice to our curators. I also worked on participation with Mr. Perot. At that time, I worked with the Ihwa students, and Mr. Perot worked with the EPF students from Switzerland. And I wasn't able to do any documentation in the process because I was so focused on the outcome. After everything was complete, we were trying to write a book. We realized that the students that Mr. Perot brought really enjoyed the process. They had pictures of themselves. They really took a lot of videos. I'm sure they also had difficulties and they also had moments of pain, but looking at that, I realized that Biennale is not just about the outcome. The final exhibition, it will be very large scale, and the final exhibit was a large scale metallic object, but that didn't really express everything that we went through and experienced. I'm sure you're all well prepared. Mr. Che, the three curators from Puhaha, Mr. An, I'd like to ask you to at least share some of the mid-process with us. You don't have to share anything, but just glimpses of what's happening in the process. That will be intriguing. It will stimulate us. And don't surprise us on the 1st of September with something unexpected. Maybe you can document the process that will give us some hints or promote what you're doing. Let us know just a little bit about what you're doing. That will intrigue us and that will make us more excited. Everything is so fast these days, and people's interest disappears in a second. But if you keep throwing these hints, it'll keep our interest in place.
Yes, we'll try to enjoy the process as much as we can so that we can be intriguing and provoke the curiosity of everyone. We will soon have a website live, and beginning spring next year, we are preparing many online programs, and I think we will reach a climax in September. And I'd like to ask for your continued support and interest for the successful hosting of the SBAU 21, and we will also do our best to live up to your expectations. Thank you very much. We will now conclude the roundtable discussions. Yes, thank you, Professor Choi Chun, our moderator, and all our panelists. You can return to your seats. We have some reporters with us this evening, and we have some people from the media who may want to ask questions, and we have some reporters who are following us online who have asked us several questions. Does anybody from the media who is with us today have any questions on our Pre-Biennale or SBAU 21? Dominique will answer your question. Hello, I'm from Electronic News. Last year, I went to the closing ceremony of SBAU 2019, and I was able to interview Dominique Perrault at that time. I'm not sure whether he remembers. Next year, we will have SBAU 21, and I look forward to it. And it's great to meet Dominique online through the Pre-Biennale. I'm very happy to meet you. I have some questions. The thematic exhibit, which you will be hosting at DDP, will you be showing the installations and the proposals that you received during the call for proposals? If so, you probably reviewed a lot of projects during the call for proposals. If there is a proposal that pops up in your mind that interested you, could you present this proposal to us?
Alors, en fait, il faut, comment dirais-je, bien comprendre que
what we have to understand is that the exhibits are not separated. Of course, there is a call for proposals, but we also invite artists, and we also invite cities. And it's all of these three things that come together, and we set the stage for the Biennale through the participation of the different participants, and we create different areas that people can visit. It's like traveling in an imaginary city. So what we are looking for in terms of process and what interests us is at the end of the year or in spring or around summer, we may present how we have connected all of these different pieces of the puzzle. And we might have a homepage that can show the different ideas and proposals, and we can editorially start collecting the documentation. We want to come out with a data book. It's not going to be a catalog of the exhibit, but the scientific committee members will be writing for the data book, and each member will be contributing a small article, and we would like to show the history of the Biennale, how it evolved in the data book. It could be interesting for the visitors or people who would like to visit the Biennale, how this SBAU 21, this major exhibit and Biennale was born and developed. So we are very active right now, but nothing has been decided yet. We are right now in a very open position. We want to collect as much information as possible, and gradually we want to organize and structure this information. It's going to be a very dense information and a big volume of information. People cannot see everything. A biennale that is successful is a biennale wherein we can walk around and be attracted to different installations, but you don't have to see everything. Like in the city, we don't know all the city from top to bottom. We don't know all the details of a city wherein we live. So we would just like to propose different presentations because we are attracted by its movement, by its design, by its color, by the person who is going to present it. So right now, our idea of our Biennale is a rich, diverse Biennale which is completely open to everyone, open completely to the public. This is not going to be a Biennale dedicated only to architecture. This Biennale will be a celebration of architecture that we will share with the public. And as for my favorite proposal, it may be a bit early to tell you. Maybe at the beginning of next year, I will be able to tell you more about the proposals that interested me. And maybe we will be able to see what kind of staging was proposed and what kind of a proposal in terms of design or engagement attracted me and interested me. But as of now, we are collecting all the information, so we have to wait until after the end of the year.
네, 우리 취재진과 그리고 우리 페로 총감독님
thank you very
함께
much,
또 대화 나누시면서 오늘 프리비엔날레 의견 나누고
for the
계셨고요.
question and answer.
우리 서울시 유튜브 채널을 통해서
Through the
의견과
Seoul
질문 남겨주신
City YouTube
취재진분들이
channel,
계십니다.
we
그래서
have received
언론의
some questions
입장에서도
from
우리
the
도시건축
media.
비엔날레에 대한 많은 관심을 또 갖고
It
계시기
shows how
때문에
the media
우리가
is
중요하게
interested
느껴지는데요.
in the Seoul
질문을 좀 몇
Biennale.
개 뽑아서 우리
We've
감독님께
selected
드리겠고요.
a few
감독님께서
questions and we
답변을
will
이어가시도록 하겠습니다. 첫
ask
번째는요.
these
시사
questions
포커스
to you.
언론사의
The first
오훈
question was from
기자님인데요.
Mr. Oh-hun of
이
Shisa
질문을
Focus.
주셨습니다.
This is what he
도미니크 페로
asked.
총감독님께서
Mr. Dominic Pero,
생각하시기에 감독님의 관점에서
from
서울에서
your
가장
viewpoint,
매력적이라고
what is
생각하시는
the
건축물이
most
있다면 어떤
attractive
곳일까요?
and charming building in Seoul City?
C'est une ville extraordinaire parce que c'est une ville qui est construite
Seoul
au milieu
is an
des collines.
extraordinary
Et
city.
donc, ce sont
It
des
is
architectures qui sont des architectures
a capital
plutôt
built
liées à des
in
petites
the
vallées. On ne voit pas la ville, jamais on ne
in
voit
the
Séoul
middle
dans
of
son
a
ensemble.
hilly area.
Il faut prendre un avion.
This means that you can't
Séoul, c'est une
see
géographie
Seoul in
de
a
vallées
single site. You have to
avec,
probably get on an airplane to
une
see
relation
the
très
whole of Seoul.
particulière
It
avec la
has
nature
a
qui
very
souvent est protégée
hilly
en haut des
terrains. It's got
pour moi, l'architecture de
valleys
Séoul, c'est toujours
and
ces lieux,
hills.
soit historiques,
And
soit
there are
des lieux
structures built
contemporains
on very
qui
hilly
sont dans
areas as
cet
well.
échange
I don't think
entre,
the
le
buildings
creux de la
in
vallée
Seoul are
et le sommet des collines. Et pour cela,
not
il y a,
just historical or
je pense que
modern.
c'est le thème d'une
Some
promenade
of them are
qu'on
historical,
pourrait
some of them
imaginer à
are
Séoul,
modern, and they
identifier
are
ces
all
architectures,
situated
ces lieux
throughout the
qui
city. So
parlent
there's
et
always
du
an
sol, de la
interest
vallée
exchange between different heights of the building sites. Sometimes a building below the mountain will be talking with the building on top of the mountain.
네, 계속해서 이어가는데요. 지금
Let's
현장에 아까
continue with
질문
the
첫 번째로 주셨던
questions,
오세정
and reporter
기자님께서
Oh
또 의견을 나누시고
has
싶어하는
another
또
question,
관점이
I
있다고
think,
하시거든요. 네, 테러 감독님께 질문
for
있으시죠?
our general director.
오늘 많은 관심 갖고 함께해 주셔서 감사합니다.
Thank you for your interest.
네, 사실은 마지막에 질문을 드리고 싶다고
I wanted to ask you this question as a last question, but can I ask you another question and not the last one?
온라인에 우리 질문 한 두 분
Then
정도 더
let's invite
나누고
two more online questions, and I'll give you the floor later on to ask the last question. Okay.
뉴스원의 김진환 기자님이
Reporter Kim Jin-wan from
남겨주신
News One
질문입니다.
has a
세계적으로 도시
question.
문제에 대한 담론이 계속되고 있습니다.
There is a
서울
discourse on
비엔날레에서도
urban problems around the world, and SBAU 2017 had the theme Imminent Commons. The second Biennale talked about the collective city, and the third Biennale is going to talk about crossroads and resilience. What is the major discourse of the city that you would like to present in the Biennale? And for Dominique Perrault, what would be the biggest challenge or problem of Seoul right now? Seoul is a city, a vast city, a sprawling city, and we talk about the Seoul as a metropolis, and it's a metropolis that is one of the top 5 cities in the world. And so in Seoul, quantity is something that we need to control, and we have to control this quantity so that it can become something of quality. And we have so many people, so much space. People will have to be able to live together in this space, and crossroads will be a way to connect different spaces. These spaces are living in parallel, but they are not communicating with each other. And so we want to create crossroads in the city so that people will be able to live their everyday life in a better way during every season, whatever the size. That is the theme of Crossroads. That's what we want to do for the city of Seoul. That's what we want to do for the city of Paris. And it's true for every big metropolis around the world. How can we create a more silent, less polluted, calm city? Because in the big metropolises, in the big cities, we need this quality. And at the same time, we have to be able to live in a neighborhood where we live close to our neighbors, where we can go to places that are nearby. We have to live together.
도미니크 페로 감독님,
Thank you very much.
메가시티 서울의 장점과 단점을 좀 짚어주신 것 같습니다. 네, 양적인 성장
Director,
뒤에 우리가
the general director talked about the strengths and drawbacks of Seoul in a very objective manner. The next question. Nam Yong-hee from The Fact asks this next question. I think this is of common concern right now. The Pre-Biennale is being held in an online format. We're quite worried, but we see that everybody is cooperating well. But when it comes to next year's 2021 SBAU, will the pandemic be over? If not, then how is the best way to deal with that? That was a very good question. We are talking with the Seoul city government and thinking hard of how to deal with this. If the even if the pandemic doesn't end, the 2021 Biennale will take place. I believe that allows us to organize it in a more open and flexible manner. Once the projects are proposed, well, the projects are proposed and it could be presented in a digital mode. That will enlarge the participation. Many of the projects will be collaborative. There are exhibitions in Biennale that are physically participated, but a lot of aspects of the Biennale can be complemented online. For example, we'll have exhibition halls and people can physically participate in that. But at the same time, since we're in the middle of a pandemic, ironically, we need to be more open. We need to have more open spaces so that we can increase the participation, and then we can also utilize digital technology to present the projects. Therefore, the 2021 SBAU will take place both physically and digitally. We will increase online participation, and it'll be more open in this respect. We talk about augmented reality. I think the overall exhibition will be augmented, and that will be possible through the cooperation of Seoul City. No matter what happens, whether there is a COVID-19 or not, the 2021 Biennale will take place.
That was a very clear answer, and we are having this pre-Biennale virtually, and even online we are able to have a very dynamic discussion. And as our General Director has said, next year our SBAU 21 will be hybrid. We will have off and online events thanks to smart technologies. Reporter Oh, you said you wanted to ask the last question. Are you ready? Yes, I am. At this event, I knew that you loved the city of Seoul, but I felt this even more today. And while attending the Pre-Biennale, you prepared many things for our Biennale next year. I could feel that. But SBAU 21, when it is about to conclude, what kind of outcome or results do you expect and would you like to have at the moment of its closing? What we hope to achieve is that thanks to the process that we have started with all the curators, with the City of Seoul, with the help of the scientific committee, we hope that this process will be positively criticized so that it can become a methodology, some kind of reference that can help future biennales to be better, to be bigger, to be more intense. And so we want it to be engraved in memory so that we can leave traces, and we want the exchanges that have taken place during the Biennale, the discussions that has gone on during the Biennale. We hope that all of this will be transmitted to future biennales in order to improve themes in the future. We want our biennale next year to be a process. We want something that will reflect something that is going on in the world right now, but at the same time we want it to be part of history, because it's not easy to collect archives and archiving cultural things, archiving different events. It's not an easy job, but we want Biennales to play a permanent role. We want the Biennale in Seoul to play a permanent role, learn things and reorganize memory, what we have to remember, and maybe channel TV of Biennale can be developed into different podcasts. And with the technology that we have in hand, we want our Biennale to be a resource, a source for people to express their opinions, and we want to inspire people through the Biennale.
네, 고맙습니다.
Thank you very
현장에서
much.
그리고 생방송으로 소통해 주신 우리 취재진
I'd like
여러분께도
to thank the members of the media for talking with us, and I'd like to thank Mr. Perrault for his wise answers. Today, we held the SBAU Pre-Biennale in a new fashion. We are now confident that we can do this and that we can be well prepared for next year's Biennale. Thank you very much for attending today's conference, and most of all, I'd like to thank the many staff members, the technicians, the interpreters. Thank you very much. Please join me in expressing our appreciation.
네, 2020 서울 도시건축
We will
프리비엔날레
conclude the 2020 SBAU Pre-Biennale. As we conclude today's meeting, I'd like to say I look forward to meeting you next year. Please wave your hand to Mr. Perrault.
네, 고맙습니다.
Thank you.
네, 고맙습니다.
Thank you very much, Mr. Director. 감사합니다. 네. 네, 여러분 지금 현장에 따뜻한 커피와 다과가 계속 마련되어 있으니까요. 오늘 또 행사